Chapter 1008, Leading. Chapter 1008, Leading. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bu Xingyun never let Shuo Fan out of his sight. Staring with a murderous gaze and clenched fists, he only listened to Executive Cao's account and brought him here to recognize the culprit to use some excuse to make it better for his sect. The 5 sects of Northern Lands were doing fine so far, so how come you just had to poke a central area Sword King to get your home wasted? Was it bad leadership, or no leadership? Just hearing it would irk his mood. There was also the matter of reputation, which had received a serious blow. Only he had his sect, which became ruined under his lead and would be lauded as a laughingstock for years to come. If not eternity, he had to think of something, anything. Something along the lines of giving himself for the good of Northern Lands, fighting tooth and nail with Central Area's spies, only to be betrayed and ending up in this sorry state. Now the joke would catch a heroic vibe that would turn jeers into calls of respect, and it would be the grounds for extra support in recovering as well. This was the script he wanted to play. Catch the spy, get the reward, and restore the sect to shut everyone up. Though it seemed that someone was improvising in his little act, shifting the focus of the play. Executive Cao just spoke up and Shuo Fan mocked him for disrespecting Si Bright sect, having no manners. The problem was, it affected him as well by association since he was the sect leader. As he also started ranting without Ling Yunqian's accord, but Ling Yunqian was nice enough to keep mute about it. But he already tasted his disrespect and felt their unkind attitude for Si Bright sect. You can't follow simple etiquette as a sect leader and executive while a mere merchant can? I can only assume from this that you got destroyed for very good reasons, provoking the other into attacking with your arrogance. Loose tongues end lives. He not only gained nothing but lost instead, falling out of favor with the big boss. Bu Xingyun's anger surged as consequence. From seeing Shuo Fan as a pawn to use in his favor to hating his guts, he glared hard at Shuo Fan, then spoke to Ling Yunqian. Sect leader Ling, my executive has gotten ahead of himself and I'll be sure to address this back at the sect. But Steward Chen has yet to answer his questions. Would it be possible for sect leader Ling to help? Ha ha ha, that is why we're here. Ling Yunqian laughed and still spoke on a kind tone while saluting. Steward Chen is such a courteous man. Having just arrived at my sect, I should play the host and honor your, but some problems have appeared that need Steward Chen's input. I can only ask that you forgive my insistence. Shuo Fan smiled. You're too kind, sect leader Ling. It's my honor to be of any help to you. Yeah, sect leader, Steward Chen has bowed alongside me before the great gates. He is a respectful man and is sure to not mind this slight inconvenience. Dai Chencho at the side bowed and said anyone else would become suspicious. What's his relationship with Chen Fan? Why is he taking his side? But he wasn't speaking for Chen Fan at all, reporting instead to sect leader Ling of his equally respectful demeanor that he reciprocated with at everyone's salute. Just because Shuo Fan had bowed with Dai Chencho before the gates, Dai Chencho spoke up so that sect leader would keep this in mind. Otherwise, with Chen Fan being a mere merchant, the others could have easily pushed him for answers. Now however, Ling Yunqian was present as well and Bu Xingyun couldn't use force. Shuo Fan's act was a minor one, yet the effect was grand. Gaining Si Bright sect's protection. This became evident with Ling Yunqian's following words. Steward Chen is thoughtful. Bu Xingyun's face twitched, looking at the 3 of them with a sigh. Knowing force wouldn't help him here, he would have to use guile. Giving Executive Cao a look, the executive caught on and started shouting, Chen, I want an honest answer. When the Sun Sea sect was destroyed, did you draw that witch, Frigid Rain Sword King, over? Frigid Rain Sword King? Shuo Fan looked shocked. I never met her, so how could I've drew her? Executive Cao sneered. You're still lying? Then answer this. Didn't you say that when you were delivering goods to our sect that a central area spy was following you? Yes. Then you asked me to go grab the spy, right? I guess. Shuo Fan muttered with a frown and a hesitant nod. Executive Cao clapped in success. Ha ha ha, yes, that's right. We went to capture the spy, but it turned out to be Frigid Rain Sword King from the central area. This led her to attack our sect, slaughtering everyone. If you didn't draw the witch, who did? Sect leader Ling, everything's clear now. I ask that you seize this spy and find out what else has he been leaking through thorough interrogation. Guard, arrest this man. Throw him in prison and activate the barriers so he can't escape. Bu Xingyun shouted eagerly. Dai Qianqiu cleared his voice with a bow. Sect leader Bu, you're in Seabright sect. Oh, right, it's sect leader Ling's right to issue this order. Forgive me, I forgot myself, sect leader Ling. Waking up from his blunder, Bu Xingyun apologized. Ling Yuntian gave a careless wave, but his words seemed to say otherwise. Sect leader Bu, we all make mistakes and slip, but as sect leaders, we must remember that while being hasty is one thing, and the value of life is another. I only hope that you will work to correct your impulses. Bu Xingyun shuddered, knowing Ling Yuntian was chiding him, but was forced to nod as Executive Cao gave his version. It should now be Steward Qian's turn. Steward Qian has shown hesitation just now, so you must have a different opinion, ha ha ha. Ling Yuntian ignored him and gave Zhuofan the right to speak with a bright smile, and the chance to turn it around. Bu Xingyun's face sank, but was helpless. Zhuofan bowed and looked grateful as he smiled at the smug Executive Cao. Executive Cao was right, but there are a few parts one feel that were left out that leaves room for interpretation. Allow me to fill the gaps. Executive Cao, would you kindly answer me whether or not I was the one who approached you about the spies when I delivered the goods? Have I asked Executive Cao explicitly to go capture the spy? Well. Executive Cao hesitated and Bu Xingyun glared. Spit it out. Did you not insist that he led the witch to us? Why are you stammering then? Yes. Sect leader, when you wanted to learn about this very quickly, I was being concise, thus leaving some random details out. Random? Like? Bu Xingyun glared at him. Executive Cao's lips quivered, not knowing how to say it. Zhuofan laughed and bowed. Sect leader Bu, it's better for me to tell what happened in detail. The fault lies with my caravan. On that day, the Central Area spy had set her eyes on us and destroyed one of our carriages. So when we arrived at your sect, we only delivered half. We explained what happened and asked for extra days to bring the rest. Is that right? Bu Xingyun turned to his executive. Executive Cao nodded. Yes, that's exactly right. In other words, isn't it their fault for failing to guard the goods? Bu Xingyun asked with doubt, scratching his head. Executive Cao gave an awkward nod. Zhuofan interjected. May I continue? Go ahead. Bu Xingyun found no issue and waved at him to resume, but this in fact helped Zhuofan in leaving his own tiny, but crucial, detail. Executive Cao then permitted us to come back with the rest of the goods and we left. Later I heard a huge ruckus and the world shaking with lighting covering the skies. There were shouts as well, but we were so scared we chose to flee at once. Wait, that's not how it went. How then? I couldn't just let you leave when you only gave us half the goods. It's you who said that you have someone following you and that catching him will earn us a great commendation. Did you not say that these goods are nothing compared to that? Executive Cao rushed to ask. Zhuofan nodded after a pause. Yes, and then? Then I let you go. Since we couldn't give you the goods, how come you let us go? What nonsense. What's more important, some lost goods or catching the spy? I let you go to draw him out and then grab him. Did you then? Half the credit is mine. As if. What credit is there to share when up against a sword king? More like share a jail cell. Oh, Executive Cao grunted to a stop, realizing his slip. Zhuofan smirked. Hear that? We were bait. They went to grab the spy. How did we go from being on the same side to becoming a Central Area spy? Chapter 1009, Blunder. Chapter 1009, Blunder. Proofreader, Papatonks. The bait and hunter worked together in capturing the enemy, so how come it turned into a Central Area spy? Sect leader Bu? Ling Yuntian smiled, teasing. It seems to me that the Qian caravan was more like the Sun Sea sect spy instead. Ha ha ha. Bu Xingyun's face fell, glaring at his executive. Executive Cao, when I had you punished for your gross misdemeanor, you said you were played, that the Qian caravan is a Central Area spy. Why then do I now hear that you two worked together in capturing a sword king, thus unleashing a calamity upon the sect? Sect leader Bu, the capturing of the sword king falls all on Executive Cao. Please don't drag us into this when we know nothing of it. Zhuofan interjected quickly. To make his position known, Executive Cao's face twitched in anger, losing his temper. Your sly words lured me into this mess. I would never make such a grave mistake otherwise. Executive Cao, Loose tongue's end lives. I lured you. It's all your fault for telling me your tale is a spy that I sent a team to capture her. Haha, well isn't this funny? You're one of the 5 sects in northern lands, Sun Sea sect, in charge of keeping these lands safe. You're now saying that after having lost a carriage and being followed should be kept all to myself instead? You might have neglected to report my findings, but I had done my duty by telling you. Zhuo Fan sneered, then turned to Ling Yuntian, sect leader Ling, am I wrong in any way? If it were a matter of luring, then no one would ever report on the enemy movements to the sect and plunge northern lands into hell. Ling Yuntian bobbed his head, hear, patriotic, responsible, and furthermore, when your own clan's goods end up ruined, who wouldn't report? This goes double in these times, with northern lands on the edge. Sect leader Ling is wise. Zhuo Fan gave a bow and turned to Executive Cao. Furthermore, there were rumors going around that Sun Sea sect is actually cowardly and didn't think my report would ever amount to much, so I omitted it from you at first. But with you questioning the loss of half the goods, I had no choice but to be honest. It was the only way for you to leave me be. Executive Cao's face twitched harder, with Bu Xingyun darkening by the second Zhuo Fan's passionate speech had simply been accusatory of the Sun Sea sect. What was worse, this happened in front of Ling Yuntian, and so he could do nothing to retaliate, only twitching as he tried to bottle up that anger. Executive Cao's heart sank looking at sect leader's sinister face. He had to do anything to get Chen Fan to take the fall, or he'd be the one to get it in the end. Finding Central Area spies was no longer the issue here, but giving his sect leaders self-respect back and letting loose Chen Fan. We don't need your flimsy opinions. You might be right about the report, but what about later? You proposed that we catch the spy together and share credit. It's your enticing offer that made me act and mess with that witch. It's all due to you that she came to Sun Sea sect. Yeah, I did mention this to you, but how did you reply? Zhuo Fan raved, having lost half the goods, I did not know how to make up for the loss. I planned on doing it alone, but you just had to push the issue. In the end, you frickin' acted on your own. Are you going to say I made you do that too? If it were an average spy, the success would have propelled your career. Would you have come to bother me then? Just cause you got bad luck and suffered for it, you want to drag me down with you. Is that how you think the world works, sharing tribulations but not success? I first lost a carriage, and to add insult to injury, you stole my credit. What the hell? Zhuo Fan rained on Executive Cao, with the conviction in his innocence. He got Executive Cao to shake under the assault and with no comeback, because all that Zhuo Fan raved about was damn true. Even his scheme back then was refuted and he had no grounds on which to fight back, though he was no fool and nodded. But you said your dozen guards have chased the spy away. That witch was anything but weak. Your words got me into this mess. Humph, yeah, we had the spy surrounded, but then she escaped with her faster speed. Am I wrong? There's no way Frigid Rainsword King got surrounded by just your team. How would I know? Maybe she liked to toy with us first. Who knows what twisted hobbies some experts have? Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes. While in your case, you cut her off so she didn't run, haha. Zhuo Fan smirked, hitting where it hurt the most. Bu Xingyun shook from rage. Executive Cao looked aggrieved as he peeked at his sect leader. Dai Chencho chuckled and bowed. Sect leader Bu, it's all clear now. Ever since Invincible Sword slipped into our northern lands 6 months ago, Frigid Rainsword King had to have been following his orders to stay hidden. While she didn't move against a trade caravan, only following it, its dozen guards would also find it impossible to catch her as well, thus making her feel free. But then, Sea Bright Sect blocked her way all of a sudden, giving her a hard time to flee. She would thus have no choice but to retaliate, causing this catastrophe. Bailey Yutian's team was hardly sighted ever since they came to our lands, having their own plans. This disaster wouldn't have happened if they let her be. Yeah, Invincible Sword's team has to have a plan for staying low and wouldn't want to make such a huge scene. The way the Sun Sea sect got ruined is highly unusual. Ling Yuntian nodded, then said, Executive Cao, how many times did you have Frigid Rainsword King surrounded in the end? Executive Cao's brow shook, muttering as he counted, I had sent 50 Soul Harmony experts, and when my men died I went to Elder Li, who also sent 50 Genesis stage experts. When they died, We went to Venerable Ma, who went himself along with 10 other peak Genesis stage experts. That makes it 3. Then the woman came to us. Executive Cow's action had everyone dumbstruck par. Executive Cow found himself flying from that hard slap, landing a good 10 meters away with a bloody mouth. As he got back to his feet, he found 2 teeth had fallen. But then, he noticed Bu Xingyun's rage as he glared at him in fury. God damn it, you useless sack of puss. You had her attacked thrice. Well, of course she'd be pissed. Not just the witch, but even I would have been fuming. Bu Xingyun's face twitched and shook all over as he raved, you damn bastards, how can you be so retarded? 50 died, then another 50, first Soul Harmony experts then Genesis experts, yet you still haven't learned? You just sent men to fetch instead of at least knowing the opponent. Then you had the enemy come ruining the sect, so you pin it on some impossible spy? Of course my sect gets destroyed, especially with you morons in it. Bu Xingyun lamented. Ling Yuntian chuckled and waved his hand. Sect leader Bu, please calm down. While it's all just a misunderstanding, it's good that everything's clear now. I was wondering why Bailey Yutian's team would stay hidden all this time, only to enact such a huge disaster later on, then hide again. It's obvious now, just desserts. Oops, I slipped as well, sorry. Bu Xingyun's cheek twitched and he gave him an annoyed look for his own mistake being used on him, but then he turned apathetic. Ling Yuntian cupped his hands. Steward Chen, the misunderstanding is now obvious. Forgive me for any slight that I might have caused. I ask that the Chen clan wouldn't let this minor event come between us, still working hard for the good of Northern Lands. I am grateful to see Bright Sect being fair and giving me justice in this matter. It is I who should apologize, Sect leader, having let the matter get to me. Zhuo Fan hastily spoke. Ling Yuntian waved it off. Ha ha ha, it's nothing. Steward Chen is a courteous man and a true man, to my liking. I have rarely seen men of your quality even among all the lands, Steward Chen. Sect leader is too kind. Zhuo Fan gave another deep bow. Then may I take my leave? Please. Ling Yuntian gestured with a constant smile. Zhuo Fan cupped his hands again before leaving. Bu Xingyun eyed Ling Yuntian, having lost all confidence, bowing to him, then taking Executive Cow away. Dai Qianzhou appeared once more next to Ling Yuntian moments later. A farce, ha ha ha. That remains to be seen. Ling Yuntian spoke gravely, having lost his smile. Dai Qianzhou asked curiously, Sect leader, wasn't the matter clear? The so-called spies never existed. Yeah, but it's too obvious and that makes me uneasy. Ling Yuntian's eyes shone. You think in any confrontation, there's only black and white? Humph, on one hand is the sect leader of the Sun Sea sect and on the other a mere steward of the Chen clan. They couldn't be more different. But do you really believe that steward would ever have the ability to control the way the confrontation went? Dai Qianzhou gasped. Sect leader means there's more to that steward than he lets on. Ling Yuntian's eyes shone with conviction. Outside the hall, Zhuo Fan was on his way back when a chill went through him. Curses, I've just gone to clear my name but showed off too much. What kind of merchant would act like that? I treated those two like rabid dogs. What a blunder. Chapter 1010, Well Met, Again. Chapter 1010, Well Met, Again. Proofreader, Papatonks. What normal merchant out there refuted a sect leader? I got Ling Yuntian's favor from the start and I just had to miss a few beats now and then, acting like I was pushed around, and then he would have gotten me out of it. But now that this win was too perfect, it only raised suspicion. Sigh, it all comes down to how perceptive Ling Yuntian is. But no random steward should ever be so tough. The more he thought, the more worried he became, ending up with a sigh as he made his way back. He had really been careless just now. Mr. Gu. The sudden call snapped him out from his thoughts. Pausing, Zhuo Fan frowned and his face fell. Who else could it be but one of his old pals from the central area? Freezing on the spot, he turned to find the very familiar Miss of the Shangguan clan staring at him. It also worked to make him wonder what she would be doing here of all places. Wasn't she going back to Eastern Lands? What's she doing here? They got their sword back, so they ought to be home. Then it hit him, the Four Lands Alliance. As the Shangguan clan was the leader of the Eastern Lands, they of course offered help to Northern Lands in fighting off the enemy. Them being here was natural, or better yet, He should have been prepared for it, but the sudden meet came out of nowhere, leaving him floored. With the Shangguan clan knowing everything about him, his Qian cover was bound to be blown. Shangguan Qingyang lit up with unspeakable joy. Mr. Gu, it's really you. I thought you looked familiar from afar. Zhuo Fan moved with speed and precision, landing next to her and covering her mouth. Shangguan Qingyang jerked but then noticed Zhuo Fan's sneaky look. There was no trace of fear in her heart, only giving a silly smile. While her eyes basked in the joy of reunion, Zhuo Fan gave the secluded forest path a once-over for anyone else being around, then took Shangguan Qingyang deeper into the woods. Now looking at her excited gaze, he rolled his eyes and let go of her, speaking in a serious tone. How come I run into you again? Yeah, what a coincidence meeting you as well, Mr. Gu, ha ha ha. Blushing hard, Shangguan Qingyang gave a shy smile and looked bashfully away, taking a deep breath. Zhuo Fan stared at her as he mulled before speaking. Miss Shangguan, I am so happy to see you as well. Really? I think so too. Shangguan Qingyang lit up and gazed into his deep eyes with a wide smile. Zhuo Fan rushed to settle her mood. This isn't the time to reminisce. I still have important things to do, so I must be going. So soon? But we just met. Yes, the matter is urgent, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan sighed. Also, I'm not Jiu Yifan now, so act like you never saw me. You must never ever mention anything about me to anyone or my head would roll. Are we clear? Shangguan Qingyang paused, then smiled. You're not Jiu Yifan? Does that mean it's a fake name? Then who are you? Tell me, or I'm telling Dad that Jiu Yifan giving him sleepless nights is here, in the northern lands. I gave him sleepless nights. What was he thinking about? Zhuo Fan's brow furrowed, but then shook his head. This was no time to think about some random stuff. So making sure the coast was still clear, Miss Shangguan, this is serious. I have a secret mission here that no one must know about. Are you up against northern lands now? That won't do. We're here to help them. I'm not interested in northern lands. I won't meddle in their affairs, I promise. Then what are you here for? It doesn't concern you, just promise me you'll keep my secret, that you never saw me. Once I finish my mission, I'll just leave with none the wiser. Zhuo Fan vowed. Shangguan Qingyang pouted. You're saying you're gonna leave without drawing attention? Cross my heart and hope to die. I don't believe it. What about me? Grumbling with a lowered head, Shangguan Qingyang teared up. You slip in then slip out so that not even I will be startled. Zhuo Fan's face twitched and sighed. Anyone else would be wrecked with fear from being involved with such a mastermind like him, then guilt eating them up inside from not reporting, but this chick is more worried about not saying goodbye when leaving. Just what's going through her head? What's so important about seeing her before I go? It's not like I'm taking her. Just what does she get out of a fake promise? Giving her a long look, Zhuo Fan sighed. All right, I'll drop by before leaving. Really? Does that mean since only I know you came and left, then only I know what you did here? Shangguan Qingyang grew exuberant once more. Zhuo Fan cocked his head. I guess. But what's with that twisted logic? Anyone else that knew this would have had me exposed. It's all the same, since you can only trust me in this place. I won't ever sell you out. Shangguan Qingyang giggled, hugging his arm. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, glancing at her. Yeah, I guess I trust you. Who else am I to trust if not the one who ran into me? Ha ha ha. Besides, if anything happened to the miss of the Shangguan clan, it would draw unwanted attention and soon I'll be found out. The best way to keep quiet is to silence everyone, if they were a random person that is. No, young Sanzi risked his life for her. Even if she's a nobody, I can't treat young Sanzi's sacrifice so frivolously. Zhuo Fan muled things over, settling on letting this Miss Shangguan live. That meant he had to speed up his operation to minimize the already increasing risk. Miss Shangguan, we promised to forget about ever meeting and ever knowing each other. Farewell. Extricating his arm from her tight hug, Zhuo Fan gave a dry smile and ran. Shangguan Qingyang shouted after only 2 steps, Jiu Yifan, stop right there. Zhuo Fan froze, looking back with a bright smile. What else can I do for you, Miss Shangguan? You still haven't told me your real name. You're going nowhere until you do. Shangguan Qingyang smiled. Zhuo Fan frowned. My name's Chen Fan, ha ha ha. Fake for sure, humph. Grumbling, Shangguan Qingyang rolled her eyes. Zhuo Fan shrugged. Anything I say you'll think it's fake, so what's the point in saying it? Don't say it then, and I won't ask again. Shangguan Qingyan's eyes twitched and then she grew quiet. But, I do want to know one thing. Ask away, but it's up to you if you believe me. Is young Sanzi all right? Zhuo Fan's face fell, taking a deep breath. He's still alive, but unconscious. I came here to save him. You sneaked into the Sea Bright sect for young Sanzi? How are you going to save him? Don't worry about it. Just know that I must succeed. Oh, I see. Then you can rest assured that I'll never tell on you. Shangguan Qingyang turned serious as she promised. For you or for young Sanzi, I will keep your secret. Zhuo Fan smiled. I believe you will do it for young Sanzi. Then I'll go get ready. All right, till next time. Shangguan Qingyang was no longer difficult this time around, watching Zhuo Fan with hopeful eyes, that he would pull through. Zhuo Fan nodded then flew away, and off this island Shangguan Qingyang took a deep breath and had a sweet smile on her face as she went in another direction. Chapter 10-11, Northern Land's Best Disciple. Chapter 10-11, Northern Land's Best Disciple. Proofreader, Papatonks. Spring is in the air, with the bloom of flowers and the chirping of birds. In a quiet little home, Shangguan Qingyan's voice was heard as she sang, skipping around in a very good mood. Oh, Uncle Shangguan said that young Miss Shangguan has been down this past year, and I thought this silly sister was bothered with something, so I came to help. Now I see that sister is in good spirits. I must have gotten worried over nothing, ha ha ha. Shangguan Qingyang paused and looked back with a smile. Before her was the Southern Land's immortal healer Murong Shui and her servant, Zuier sister Murong. You're here as well? Shangguan Qingyang cheered and jumped in Murong Shui's embrace. Murong Shui patted her soft hair. With Northern Lands in danger and the other lands helping, Southern Lands is not about to stay behind either. Young Miss Shangguan, young Miss had missed you so much. When we came last time to Northern Lands to get medicine, she has always wished to go to Eastern Lands and see you, young Miss, again. But the Northern Lands came under threat and Clan Head had to rush here. Young Miss wanted to visit you in Eastern Lands, then come to Northern Lands with Shangguan Clan. Only that in the Eastern Lands we realized you've already gone to Northern Lands, so young Miss rushed here on the double. She made quite the detour. Zuier smiled at the two girls as she told them about her hard journey. Shangguan Qingyang was touched and broke the hug to look into Murong Shui's clear eyes as she grabbed her soft hands. You've been through so much, big sister, how could I repay you? This is nothing to you and Uncle Shangguan's hardship of taking back the soaring sword from the central area. Murong Shui glared at Shangguan Qingyang. Little sister, do I mean so little to you to not tell me about this huge matter about the stolen sword? Our four lands alliance aside, with our two clans so close, we would never have stood by during your plight. I just had to go to Shangguan Clan myself in the Eastern Lands to know you've braved such terrible dangers before making a detour to Northern Lands and for the Sea Bright sect without so much as a word of notice. Thank heavens you're all right. I wouldn't have known how to take your loss then. Wouldn't that be an insult to our clan's close friendship? Shangguan Qingyang gave the sullen Murong Shui a tight hug. Don't be angry, big sis. It's all my fault for not telling you. But I'm not the only one who deserves your anger. Who? Dad. Shangguan Qingyang giggled. After Shangguan Feiyun stole the soaring sword, someone proposed that we join hands with the Murong clan, but Dad refused. He said that it's our clan's problem and not to involve others, as it would earn their ridicule once this matter was out. How are we to provide support when we can't even keep our sword safe? Won't that disgrace our clan? Murong Shui sighed and shook her head. That's the Uncle Shangguan I know, obsessed with appearances. Right. Big sister Murong, be sure to teach my stubborn dad a valuable lesson. How could I? He's a senior and we are juniors. How can we meddle in their affairs? Also, Murong Shui chuckled and sighed. Uncle Shangguan must have hesitated out of concern for our clan. With Southern Lands having no conflict yet with the central area and a relative peace in place between us and the Swordstar Empire, I thus could still move about in their home. But by joining the matter of the stolen sword, it would bring many troubles to us. Shangguan clan is a righteous clan and would never cause misfortune upon another. This is something I appreciate about Uncle Shangguan's character and pain. Shangguan Qingyang nodded in understanding. Yeah, Shangguan is righteous and the Murong clan is filled with justice. Despite being apart, we are the prime example for good in the 5 lands. How else would our 2 clans would have grown so close? Ha ha ha, that's what I call partners in notoriety. Ooh. Murong Shui smiled at first, then her face twitched as Shangguan Qingyang finished, whining, Sis Yanga, what was that? Nothing. I meant to say with valor and justice, thick as thieves, oops. Covering her mouth, Shangguan Qingyang gave Murong Shui an awkward look, growing angry, it's all that meanie's fault for twisting my views. Murong Shui frowned and teased, a meanie? Oh, the one Uncle Shangguan told me about that you've been pining for a year now. Dad told you? Shangguan Qingyang blushed hard with a lowered head, but a silly smile. Murong Shui nodded. Uncle Shangguan avoided specifics, only saying that you had a fling in the central area and turned sulky. But the way I hear it now, it might not be as simple as a fling. Dear little sister, you're head over heels, completely lovesick, ha ha ha. As if. Why not? Murong Shui teased. You used to be such a demure lady and now you can't even speak straight. You must have picked up his speaking habits, ha ha ha. I bet your man isn't just anyone and knows how to be blunt as well. Shangguan Qingyang blushed harder. No way, he's just a bit harsh with words. What about that cousin of yours, Shangguan Yulin, who used to stick to you like glue? How does he compare? Humph, that traitor isn't worth his shoes. Shangguan Qingyang sneered. Murong Shui shook her head. Love is blind. You're truly hopeless. I heard from Uncle Shangguan that Shangguan Yulin has a bad character, but he was well known in the lands for his looks and strength. If he can't even carry the guy's shoes, won't that mean your man is beyond outstanding? Ha ha ha, I don't believe there's anyone as great as Shangguan Yulin. Love is in the eyes of the beholder. Little sis is so in love she thinks the world of him. Shangguan Yulin's eyes shook and said with defiance, Big sis, you're too ignorant. The entire Shangguan clan witnessed his ability. Go ask Dad if you don't believe me, see how much Dad's praising him. That traitor Shangguan Yulin is nothing to him. Aren't you now arguing with me about his overestimated greatness? You even dare talk back to me, saying that I'm blind? Damn girl, want me to knock some sense into you? Murong Shui raised her hands with a sly grin and unleashed her tickling attack on the love-struck girl. Shangguan Qingyang dodged while laughing for her to stop. Big sister Murong, please stop. I won't say it. You're not blind, you're narrow-minded. Hey, did you pick only his bad habits? This goes to show he isn't anything good. Yet you're still saying it. Murong Shui swung while Shangguan Qingyang kept dodging. In good humor, the girls enjoyed themselves with Zui'er giggling at the side in encouragement. Young Miss Shangguan, that's it. Keep at it, hi. The red bean trees in the south to grow by spring they yield in heaps above. I hope you pluck in plenty soon because it is the gift of love. In the middle of their fun, a poem drowned the 2 girls' shrieks. Unable to disturb the speaker's resounding voice, the girls halted their fun and looked at the entrance. Thump tilde. A man in a long robe and tied hair, a most refined scholar in demeanor and pace, walked in holding a snowplum flower in his hand. Murong Shui started at his appearance. Ouyang Chongqing, you're out? Northern Land's best disciple Ouyang Chongqing? Shangguan Qingyang giggled. I've been to Northern Lands a couple of times but never had met you till now. Ouyang Chongqing gave a bow and smiled. Young Miss Shangguan, I have been most of the time in seclusion. It's only natural to have yet to see me. Sister Shui, it's been a while. This snowplum flower is for you. Ouyang Chongqing smiled as he presented the flower with respect and a smile. Murong Shui did not take it. It's too soon to be calling me like that. How so when it's just right? Ouyang Chongqing beamed. Now that father has healed from his wounds and your brother is a guest in the Sea Bright sect, I shall ask father to request your brother to give me your hand in marriage. Then we can have an early wedding, ha ha ha. Chapter 10-12, Suspicion. Chapter 10-12, Suspicion. Proofreader, Papatonks. What? Shangguan Qingyang looked in shock from Murong Shui and Ouyang Chongqing, before settling on a smile. Big sis, you've been hiding your sweetheart all this time from me while even teasing me about my own. Now we get to celebrate your wedding with rounds of drinks. What's with that nonsense? Murong Shui glared at her, then looked into Ouyang Chongqing's hopeful gaze. Brother Ouyang, have you forgotten our promise? Of course not. Ouyang Chongqing spoke with pride. grasping the heavens, shaking the 5 lands, standing above everyone, and only below one. Murong Shui smirked. Then, Brother Ouyang, which of these 4 have you achieved? While I have only fulfilled one, the other 3 are just a matter of time with this head start. While marriage is a way off, we can at least get engaged. My, how certain you are. What gives you such confidence? Murong Shui toyed. Ouyang Changqing had his head held high, his chest out, as he said, it's obvious I'll grasp heaven. You know who my father is, the strongest in northern lands, Ouyang Lingtian, wielding the heaven-sealing sword. Won't the divine sword be passed down to me? The 5 lands' divine swords aren't necessarily passed down in one's family, but based on ability. Murong Shui huffed. Ouyang Changqing gave an understanding nod, his pride unaffected. You're right, but if we are to leave father out of this, who am I exactly? The winner of the Northern Lands' Great Disciple Competition. I am now the best disciple in Northern Lands and later shall take my father's place in becoming the best in Northern Lands. Sister Shui has to agree. Murong Shui flicked her head away but still relinquished a nod. Ouyang Changqing grinned. As for shocking the lands, it will come with becoming the best in Northern Lands. And as for being under one man? Shangguan Qingyang asked eagerly, with such high goals, to be still beneath someone, who would that be? Is it that old freak invincible sword? Though it's kinda obvious since he hasn't been beaten for the last 10,000 years and it's sure to stay like that for another few thousands. Ouyang Changqing mocked, young Miss Shangguan, you're totally underestimating me. I am a man destined to cleave the heavens. Once I gain insight into heaven-sealing sword's sword art, his invincible status will be a thing of the past. Humph. See, that's the type I hate the most, overconfident to the extreme. He's no different from those prancing wastrels everywhere. Saying that you're above invincible sword without even meeting him is sheer lunacy. Murong Shui's face was hard as she made eye contact with Shangguan Qingyang. Shangguan Qingyang bobbed her head, looking at him eagerly still. Since even invincible sword is beneath you, then who will be the one above? Isn't it obvious? Ouyang Lingtian cupped his hands at the sky with a straight face. Family ties are most important. No matter how godlike I become, I shall remain father's son. Only my father can stand above me. As for standing above everyone, that'll come natural with the defeat of invincible sword, ha ha ha. Shangguan Qingyan's heart sank as she looked at his obnoxious zealotry, feeling Murong Shui's pain. Now I know what you mean by the 4 goals being simple. Besides you and your dad, everything is relative. Not relative, but destined to happen. Ouyang Changqing spoke heavily. Murong Shui rolled her eyes. Then do come again when the relative becomes reality. Sister Yanga, let's go inside and forget about this bore. Murong Shui threw the snow plum flower, taking Shangguan Qingyan's arm and walking inside. I'd much rather have you tell me more about your man than listen to his obnoxious bragging. Shangguan Qingyang shrugged and followed after her, having no choice. Ouyang Changqing cried from behind, Sister Shui, I will succeed, believe me. Believe your foot. Murong Shui cursed in her mind. Changqing, I believe you. A laughter came from nowhere as a familiar figure suddenly grabbed Ouyang Changqing's arm. Changqing, it's been years since we saw each other and my how much you've grown, already in the 8th layer soul harmony stage. There's no disciple like you in the other 3 lands. The sky's the limit, I tell you, ha ha ha. Ouyang Changqing lit up, having his ego stoked. Brother Murong, it's been a long time. I missed you as well. Murong Shui paused and looked at Shangguan Qingyang with a sigh. I just don't know what brother sees in him to even give his little sister away. Shui, did you say something? Nothing. Now that brother is here, does that mean you found clues to track them? Murong Shui still held Shangguan Qingyang as she went to give a slight bow. The smiling Murong Lai suddenly turned dark. Don't remind me. Those 3 are like ghosts, vanishing off the face of the earth. Sea Cloud sect had been searching for 6 months now but still came out empty. They must have left that area and all clues are gone. I could only come back. Who are they to have escaped the likes of ardent Sunsword God? Are they so great? Shangguan Qingyang asked curiously. Ouyang Changqing was also confused. With Brother Murong and the mighty forces of Sea Cloud sect scouring their domain, they should have been found in minutes. How can there be no trace at all? It's baffling. Brother Murong, would you care to tell me more about them? I shall gather all the men of the 5 sects and check everyone. We'll leave no stone unturned, but we'll definitely find them. No, please don't. It will only unsettle northern lands more. Invincible Sword's team is hidden and causing such chaos will only work against us. They'll use this chance to slip in. Yeah, Shuer is right. There's no need to go through such lengths for just 3 people. Our true enemy is Bailey Yutian after all. Murong Lai gave a hard nod. Ouyang Changqing pondered and relented. Does that mean, Brother Murong, that they're not from the central area? Who are they? Shangguan Qingyang picked up on Murong Lai's meaning. Murong Shue's side. The man is as cunning as a demon, causing thousands of casualties in the central area then vanishing without a trace. Now he appeared in northern lands along with an expert that can fight my brother to a standstill. Just what is he up to? We're yet unsure in his stance regarding the northern lands conflict, but he is without a doubt a dangerous element. Not even Brother Murong could catch him. Just who is he? Shangguan Qingyang cried out and Ouyang Changqing looked at him with shock. Murong Shuer was the one to explain. Still, I don't know who he is, just that he left one name in the central area, Gu Yifan. What? Shangguan Qingyang gaped, almost thinking out loud. But she caught herself in time, though her face sank. How can it be him? Why are the Murongs after him? What now? As she was thinking of finding out, Ouyang Changqing made it worse with his sigh. Just from the name I can tell he's bad. I never heard a more ugly name. Who in their right mind would use their real name when doing evil anyway? Murong Shuer rolled her eyes at him. Ouyang Changqing shrugged. Never mind, since we won't find him soon, not with a fake name and hiding his trail. I'm better off minding my own search. Brother Murong, want to come along? Who are you searching for? Murong Shuer smirked. Sect leader Ling actually trusted someone as shallow as you to find someone suspicious? You're only going to scare them away. Ouyang Changqing's mood deflated. Sister Shuer, don't underestimate me. Sect leader Ling personally asked me to make the inquiries. A caravan just arrived at the sect, one belonging to the Qian clan, one of the 3 great merchant clans in northern lands. Sect leader found their steward, Qian Fan, to be odd and asked me to look into him. Qian Fan? Shangguan Qingyang paled, having recalled Zhuo Fan saying Qian Fan was his real name. While unclear if that was true, she believed that was the name he was using now. Curses, he even said to keep it a secret. Barely any time passed and he's already under suspicion. Now that Murong brother and sister are after you, what do I do? Shangguan Qingyang was consumed by anxiety and worry. That damn man always knows how to make me uneasy. Chapter 1013, Strongest Barrier. Chapter 1013, Strongest Barrier. Proofreader, Papatonks. Looking at Shangguan Qingyang so distressed and jittery, everyone gave her an odd look, with Murong Shuer asking, Sister Yanga, what is it? Something wrong? No. I just recalled something crucial that needs all of your dire attention. It all happened so fast that I suddenly cried out and startled you all. Don't look at me like that, ha ha ha. Shangguan Qingyang gave a strained laughter, her eyes shining. Murong Lai said, Oh, and here I thought you're familiar with Steward Qian. Brother Murong, that's a poor joke. Why would I know a northern lands merchant? Just when Brother Ouyang mentioned his name I was reminded of a depressing matter. It's totally a coincidence, hehe. Shangguan Qingyang strained to cover it all up, while the rest merely ignored it. Sister Yanga, you're all grown up yet so easily stirred. You should worry about being married off. I'll never marry, and stay with Sister Shuer. Hi. Shangguan Qingyang raised an eyebrow while hugging Murong Shuer's arm, rubbing her cute little head. Murong Shuer smiled back. Murong Lai and Ouyang Changqing looked at the 2 girls being so close and just shrugged. Murong Lai then smiled at Shangguan Qingyang. Sister Yanga, what's the dire issue that needs my help? You can just say it. Well. Looking hesitant, Shangguan Qingyang faltered as she beamed. It's something that Dad didn't want me to say, but recently he's been worried sick over it that I started worrying as well. Actually. Murong Lai turned serious. Brother Shangguan? It must be grave indeed for not even Shangguan clan head to not solve it. Yanga, tell me everything and maybe I can offer my help. Brother Murong, you must not say a word to Dad that I was the one who told you. You know how obsessed he is with appearances. Shangguan Qingyang put on a pained look as she spoke the big secret Murong Lai, and the others listened attentively, with Ouyang Changqing looking hopeful. Of course, Sister Yanga, we won't ever mention you. I'm actually very curious to know this secret, especially about such a big clan. Hey. Shangguan Qingyang rolled her eyes, glaring at him, and scrounged up her nose, before sighing. To be quite frank, Brother Ouyang, we might have recovered the soaring sword from the central area, but it's now ruined. What? Murong Lai gasped. The 5 divine swords of the lands that can peel steel, cleave heavens, crush the earth, the strongest things in the world, had one of them ended up ruined? Is there actually anyone who can do this? Brother Murong, what I meant to say by that is not the sword itself that is broken, but the sword spirit is sealed and can't unleash the divine sword's power. It's nothing more than a glorified paperweight. Shangguan Qingyang sighed. Dad and the 3 venerables had been tireless in trying to unseal it for the better part of the year, with no results. The sealing was very strong, leaving nothing they could use. That's why I wanted to ask Brother Murong if you could help Dad. Murong Lai turned grave and jerked as she called to him. He shouted, Brother Shangguan is just too foolish. This matter isn't as simple as having only eastern lands concerned so he could just hide it from us. We all know how terrible Invincible Sword is. Without the Soaring Sword's help, how could we stop him? Thank you for sharing this with me, or I fear would be in the dark even as all 3 divine swords gathered to fight the old monster. Telling us at the last moment the Soaring Sword is broken would be seriously grave. Changqing, you tell your father to see Shangguan Feixiong. Shuer, we're going right now to him and understand the situation. That old man, how can he be so blind? By looking for majesty, he endangers the entire alliance. Murong Lai grew annoyed and cursed as he rushed for Shangguan clan's lodgings. Murong Shuer was grave as she followed, with Danqing Shen taking the Western Land's divine sword, that only left 3 to fight off Invincible Sword. Now that 3 became 2, stopping that monster was impossible. He wasn't just strong by himself, but also wielded a divine weapon as well. Ouyang Changqing started, then said, Brother Murong, sect leader gave me a job to do. Isn't it just a checkup on a suspicious person? That can wait. The sealed soaring sword takes precedence. Go tell your father. Murong Lai shouted back as he flew away, with Murong Shuer and Zuier catching up. Ouyang Changqing nodded quickly and went his own way too. Only Shangguan Qingyang was left standing there all alone, giving sneak peeks around. Shangguan Qingyang darted away too, but in a completely different direction than the rest. Father, sorry, you're the only excuse I could think of. I have to warn that devil, that is about to be found out. Zhuo Fan had left the highest floating island, and after asking around, he flew to the lowest island to find his team in a lone house in a secluded place. The occasional sea breeze blew, invigorating and refreshing, having no mood to enjoy the view. Zhuo Fan went right inside the courtyard, then used the brass knocker on the large door. A cautious voice responded, Who is it? It's me, Steward Chen. Zhuo Fan glanced around for any signs of other people and spoke softly. Creak tilde. Opened just a crack, a shifty face came into view, perking up at recognizing his boss, opened the door and welcomed him in. Zhuo Fan rushed right in, and once the door closed behind him, he looked around the room to find everything accounted for. Did anything happen? Nothing to us, only you've been called out by Ling Yuntian for questioning. You didn't let anything slip, right? Bailey Yuyu stretched and smiled. Zhuo Fan's face sank. Barley Yuyu started and said, You didn't. You, with your twisted and insidious mind, that had even the patriarch flustered into sending me with you, couldn't even deal with one measly Ling Yuntian? What's wrong with you? It's easy to handle the old coot since we had no conflict, but Ling Yuntian is a cautious man, with the slightest mistake making him suspicious. What was I supposed to do? Hey, who are you calling an old coot? Say that again. Forget what I said. At Bailey Yuyu's suddenly savage look, Zhuo Fan shrugged and frowned at the rest. What about all of you? Have you found anything in the time you've been in the Seabright sect? Pa. One guard stepped forward with a bow. Sir, we've been talking with their disciples on our way here and have a grasp of the surroundings. Seabright sect is made up of 3 floating islands called Beyond Heaven Island, Mid Heaven Island, and Beneath Heaven Island. The highest is where the important figures of the sect reside. The 3 lands experts are also staying there. It is the place where Sir has came from just now. Zhuo Fan nodded, having understood this. The Mid-Heaven Island, one in between the other two, is where the disciples live and some executives. The disciples of the three lands who came to help are also staying here. The man continued, as for the lowest island, that's where we are. Common guests are received and outer sect disciples train here. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, his eyes shining. That's it? Nothing else? Of course there's more. Barley Yu cut the man off with a shout, only this time she was dead serious. See, Bright Sect is like a huge prison. You can get in, but it will be hard to get out, including me. Zhuo Fan's eyes widened as he exclaimed, why? Barley Yu was a prideful sword king that even barged into Sun Sea Sect on a killing spree for blocking her path. She held no fear even when fighting ardent Sun Sword God, knowing she could escape anytime, yet when faced with the Sea Bright Sect, she came out to say it was hard to leave it. This made Zhuo Fan tense and uneasy. Sir, the Sea Bright Sect is far scarier than we thought. Barley Yu remained silent, so the man cupped his hand and continued, Frigid Rain Sword King is right. The Sea Bright Sect has the strongest barrier among all of the sects in the 5 lands. Not even a Sword King can break it. The minute our covers are blown, we will all be trapped. Chapter 1014, Crisis. Chapter 1014, Crisis. Proofreader, Papatonks. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, his eyes filled with doubt. The strongest barrier, one that even a Sword King can't breach. They all lowered their heads. Zhuo Fan spoke, Central Area is the strongest. Central Area has the most talents, with plenty of array masters. Yet they can't set up the strongest barrier while the barren northern lands can? Well, they have that heaven-sealing divine sword. Barley Yu added. Zhuo Fan rose an eyebrow, his eyes sharp. You mean the barrier is connected to the divine sword? That is indeed so, sir. The man bowed again. From our investigation, the Sea Bright Sect's barrier relies on their divine sword to remain. No one in the lands knows the extent of the divine swords because no one has managed to unleash their full power. But Sea Bright Sect uses arrays to witness the might of their divine sword. The inner disciples told us that the heaven-sealing sword remains at the top of the Grand Hall on Beyond Heaven Island, while not in use. Through many arrays, the heaven-sealing sword's power is being leveraged to protect the sect by forming the strongest barrier. Sir, watch. The man opened a window and pointed at the calm sea. These waters hold the sea demon, of incredible power, defeating the best in northern lands with one strike. It had unleashed sky-high swells that drowned hundreds of Genesis stage experts. But even this amazing power failed to scratch the sect's barrier. This place is so safe and at peace, all due to the heaven-sealing sword's power. The sword is beyond anyone's comprehension. After hearing this as well, I went to check out the barrier. Sure enough, not a trace of my yuan qi can slip through, having no gaps I can use. I dare say that not even my full power can scratch it. Barley Yu sighed and shook her head, like a hero past his prime looking at the peaceful waters. Zhuo Fan said, so what you're saying is that this great barrier isolates the sea demon from the Sea Bright Sect. If I were to venture deeper into the sea and find the sea demon, I need to first break the barrier. Regarding that, the same guard frowned. I believe not even the strongest, Bailey Yutian, can do. Ahem. Barley Yu's icy glare landed on the man, getting his attention as she cleared her throat. Sometimes it was best to leave her dear patriarch out of it. The man flinched and lowered his voice. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone. We have no choice but to take the heaven-sealing sword and break the barrier. Steal the heaven-sealing sword? Everyone cried out. The Sea Bright Sect will know the instant it's taken and they'll come at us in force. There'll be no escape for us. Zhuo Fan smirked. I'll be the one grabbing it, not you, so what are you afraid of? And once I get it, I'll run straight for the sea to find the sea demon. They'll only be following me to see the sea demon. As for you, you'll use the chaos to escape. Your mission is over. Sir, the risk is too great, be it going for the sea demon or having the Sea Bright Sect hunt you down. Zhuo Fan raised his hand to stop him, his mind made. That's an order. Yes, sir. They all saw Zhuo Fan's firm stance and sighed. Just then, there was a sudden knock at the door that got everyone jumpy. Who can it be? We're just a bunch of merchants. It can't be that Sea Bright Sect is suspicious, right? Or is our cover blown so soon? Everyone tensed, with sweat trickling down their faces. Zhuo Fan shouted, "Who's there?" "It's me, open up." Zhuo Fan jerked and rolled his eyes with a sigh. "What's this wench doing here?" Zhuo Fan opened the door and Shangguan Qingyang burst right in, looking happy to see him. "It's really you." "I was right. You're using Qian Fan as a cover." "Ha ha ha, yeah, now why are you here?" Zhuo Fan looked bitter, the rest relaxed, finding them so casual with one another. Barley Yu mocked, "My, what a romantic you are, Qian Fan. You find charming friends wherever you go." "Who's she?" Shangguan Qingyang started at Barley Yu's presence. "A grandma the merchants gave us to stitch and babysit." "You're the grandma? Try mocking me again and I'll pummel you." Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes at Barley Yu's outburst. Shangguan Qingyang looked at them and her heart sank. She asked again, "Sir Ji Yu, this is terrible." Chapter 10:15, Striving for to be the best. Chapter 10:15, Striving for to be the best. Proofreader, Papatonks. The atmosphere plunged, with the air freezing in place. The others watched with gaping mouths while Zhuo Fan was rooted in place with his mind blown away. Shangguan Qingyang noticed the awkward vibes from their looks and blushed hard at her impulsive action, choosing to run away at once. How mortifying. Zhuo Fan gasped at long last, getting some life back in him, instantly treating it like it never happened. He gently closed the door and asked, "You heard Miss Shangguan, right?" Yeah, yep, ha ha ha." They all gave silly laughs, with the guards even bowing. "We never knew Sir's name, but now we know how to address you, Sir Zhuo. The crux is, Zhuo Fan is real or just another fake name?" Barley Yu smirked. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes then shouted, "That's besides the point. What I'm getting at is that Miss Shangguan gave us 3 important pieces of news. Sect leader Ling and the Murong siblings doubt us, that they are now working to unseal the soaring sword, and that even the best in northern lands, Ouyang Lingtian, was called over. What do you guys think?" "We await Sir's orders." Everyone bowed and deferred to him. Zhuo Fan sighed. "This information allows us to understand the situation. We're on a timer now, in extreme danger, with escape nigh impossible once Sea Bright Sect and the Murong siblings find out about us. And that this is our chance. With soaring sword sealed, every expert around ought to be busy with it, leaving the heaven sealing sword unguarded." One guard exclaimed, "So wants to steal the heaven sealing sword then break the barrier? But isn't it too hasty? We're in a race against time, with not a moment to spare." Zhuo Fan spoke heavily, "Waiting until they unseal the soaring sword will soon be trapped with no chance of reprisal. Hesitation will only get us killed. That's why we must act now while we can." "Yu, you're stealing the sword." Barley Yu jerked, "Aren't you afraid I'll run off with it?" "Run to your heart's content." Zhuo Fan gave an impatient wave, "I don't want it anyway, just need to lower the barrier and slip into the North Sea. What I need from you is to flee with it and distract everyone. Also, only a sword king like you has the highest chance of stealing it." Barley Yu nodded, "I like this deal." "I agree. Everyone else get ready to flee. Once Yu snatches the sword, break the barrier and make yourself scarce. May fortune be with you." Zhuo Fan was blunt. Barley Yu would be in no danger once the chaos started, while the rest would be made scapegoats. At least these men are Serene Shore's trading diehards, willing to die to make their company great again. Cupping their hands, the men spoke with resolve, "We shall obey. But when do we act, sir?" "The sooner the better. Tonight." Zhuo Fan declared, everyone mentally prepared for what was to come. Bang tilde. There was a sudden loud knock on the door, too forceful to be from Shangguan Qingyang. "It must be Ouyang Changqing to check on us." Zhuo Fan gave a slight nod and said, "Who is it and what brings you here?" "I am Sea Bright Sect's disciple Ouyang Changqing. I learned that you have traveled a long way to bring us supplies and must be weary from your journey, so I came to pay a visit. I hope I'm not bothering you." A clear voice came from beyond the door, filled with respect, though the tone hinted at his superior airs. Barley Yu sneered and whispered, "A pompous fool." Zhuo Fan shook his head and opened the door, to find Ouyang Changqing straightening his clothes, and putting on a dry smile. "Ha ha ha, young Master Ouyang, welcome, welcome. You give our minor merchant caravan much honor with your presence. Greetings. Do you know me, perchance?" Ouyang Changqing's eyes lit up with joy. It's only natural. My dad is the best in the northern lands, Ouyang Lingtian, and I am the best disciple in the northern lands. My name spread far and wide to every ear in the world. You must be filled with boundless gratitude and honor to have me paying you visit. Heh. Zhuo Fan gave a bitter smile, noticing Barley Yuyu's smirk. The best disciple is indeed a true pompous fool, all right, the worst of them all in fact. Ha ha ha, sure, young master Ouyang's grand name has us all in awe. You're too kind, even if it's true, ha ha ha. Ouyang Changqing puffed up and laughed as he entered. You're all merchants here, and not just pretending, right? Zhuo Fan knew where he was going but also knew his unstable character, so he smiled without fear. Young master Ouyang, that's a good one, ha ha ha. She must be the madam, but what about the child? Did you throw her away since she isn't yours? Ha ha ha. Getting no rise out of Zhuo Fan, Ouyang Changqing ramped up his questioning, bordering provocation. Everyone's faces fell and turned to Zhuo Fan. This was an attempt to provoke their emotions. Any parent would be outraged, with even a flatterer would be offended, while a suspicious person would try and remain calm. It was this difference in reactions that determined whether there was something off or not about the target. Being overly angry wouldn't do since they were merchants and shouldn't offend some big sect's disciple. While too calm was also out of the question, as it showed everything was a mere act. While Ouyang Changqing was scanning their faces for any clue that gave them away, he heard a cursing coming from another room. You damn brat, you're the fake son here. You came here to talk rubbish, is that it? Well, my dad is going to kick you out. Qiaoa burst out and snapped at Ouyang Changqing in anger. Hey, where are her manners? Didn't your parents teach you anything? Please don't get angry. I've always spoiled her. Children speak all kinds of crazy things, ha ha ha. Ouyang Changqing's face twitched, being talked back to by a child. Zhuo Fan apologized, then shouted at Qiaoa, what are you doing here? Get back inside. Qiaoa huffed and stormed inside, with Barley Yuyu slipping a sneaky thumbs up. Ouyang Changqing took a deep breath, annoyed still. He came here to check them and barely got any words out as a damn brat started cursing at him. Is the child suspicious too? Was all that an act? Nah, what does a brat know? Ignoring all that, having gone through that disturbing event, Ouyang Changqing chose to give up on testing the married couple, now taking a different approach. But then a familiar shout called to him from outside, Ouyang Changqing, get out here this instant. We're not done with yesterday's fight. That sounds awfully familiar. Zhuo Fan frowned, while Ouyang Changqing rolled his eyes and walked outside. Yang Mo, among Western Lands juniors, you're among the best, so you should at least act like it. Yesterday I sparred with you, but you still want more. Have you no shame coming after me again? Can it? We've fought just once and you're already calling yourself the best disciple in the 5 lands. That you stomped on the Western Lands? Where's your dignity? Another shout came from outside, this time filled with rage. Zhuo Fan jerked. Yang Mo? People from Western Lands are here as well? Oh crap, I can't let them see me. Zhuo Fan gave the others a grave look and pointed at his face, then outside with a shake of his head they shrugged, stuck as well. Ouyang Changqing, close by, had yet to notice Zhuo Fan's reaction, still nagging with Yang Mo outside. Now you're saying that defeating you isn't defeating Western Lands? When I asked if you represented Western Lands in our fight yesterday, you were pretty smug, calling yourself the strongest in Western Lands. Now that you lost, you no longer represent your home? And Yang Mo sneered, always striving to be the best. I finally got a good fight, so how can I just let it pass me? Anyway, since I know that I'll be the best in Western Lands sooner or later, that's enough. But then you, the son of the best in Northern Lands, had to go around all smug as you declared yourself winner over Western Lands after one fight. Have you no shame? You're the shameless one, bragging to my face like that. Ouyang Changqing's face twitched, lost for words. Chapter 1016, The Fight for Strongest Disciple. Chapter 1016, The Fight for Strongest Disciple. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh tilde. A sudden figure landed next to Yang Mo, who looked at Ouyang Changqing with a smile. Brother Ouyang, is it? I've heard of your matter from brother Yang Mo, and while he thirsts for battle, his conceit is his fault, but brother Ouyang taunted him to fight, and after you won you proclaimed yourself to have beaten Western Land's disciple. leaving us with no self-respect. That's not very gentlemanlike. We've been invited to northern lands and to lend a hand as well, but to use us to make a name for yourself isn't right. How so? I at least am not like you, prancing around Fossards, calling yourself the best in western lands when you have nothing to show for it. You got me excited about beating you for nothing. Besides, I am the best disciple in the northern lands and don't need you to be well known. Humph, ridiculous. Ouyang Changqing mocked. And who are you anyway? The newcomer cupped his hands. I am Wu Qingqiu from Ultimate Clarity sect of Western Lands. I have learned with brother Yang Mo in the Double Dragon Manor, becoming fellow disciples. Zhuo Fan's heart jumped, while his face looked frozen. Even Wu Qingqiu is here. Western Lands really plan on helping Northern Lands, or is it to let these kids gain experience? Won't that mean she is also? Zhuo Fan's heart seized, alarmed. Wu Qingqiu, a disciple from Double Dragon Manor as well? Not even seeing Zhuo Fan's wince, Ouyang Changqing sized Wu Qingqiu up and asked, I know the status of Double Dragon Manor in Western Lands and any that enter are talented people. I can't help but wonder how you fare compared to Yang Mo here? Wu Qingqiu smiled. There's not much difference between us, we're sparring partners. He's a third stronger than me and I have yet to beat him once. Yang Mo sighed and pointed at Wu Qingqiu, not ashamed to reveal his losses. Ouyang Changqing nodded. I see, so you're the true best disciple in Western Lands. I understand now why you came so late to Northern Lands, to save the best for last. Oh, no, young Master Ouyang, you got it all wrong. No, I don't. Yang Mo came 10 days ago, but I understand his character, arrogant and overbearing. Even when I defeated him yesterday, he still wouldn't surrender, a real man. Giving a thumbs up of praise to Yang Mo's perseverance, Ouyang Changqing turned to Wu Qingqiu, but now that he says so much about you, I come to realize that he truly accepts you as stronger. For someone like him to do that, then it can only mean that you have to be the best disciple in Western Lands. Wu Qingqiu shook his head. Young Master Ouyang, you're still missing the point. There's no need for explanations. Didn't you come today to get your brother's confidence back? Ouyang Changqing cut him off, puffing his chest and declaring, Fine, this afternoon, I'll meet you on stage. The first disciple in Western Lands versus the first disciple in Northern Lands will fight to see who is the strongest disciple in the lands, and the future best in the lands. If I lose, I will take my words from yesterday's fight back in front of everyone. But if you lose, then you'll have to admit that the Western Lands juniors have fallen at my feet. But this time, you're not going to say you were also putting up a tough front and aren't the best in Western Lands either, right? Wu Qingqiu gave him a long look then showed a cold smile. Fine, since young master said so much, backing down now will make me look afraid. Then this afternoon, we will fight in the arena on the Mid-Heaven Island. Not Mid-Heaven Island, but beneath Heaven Island's stage. Ouyang Changqing raised his head high. That is where everyone in the sect can come witness our fight. Or you don't want people to see the battle of the strongest? With all those sharp eyes on us, no one can play dumb on the outcome. Wu Qingqiu's face twitched and nodded. Fine, since brother Ouyang has a penchant for fame, we will oblige. Though, young master, the higher you aim, the harder the fall from grace, especially from such a big stage. I have always been triumphant in all my pursuits, showered in applause and the crowd's reverence. I don't know the meaning of falling. Flicking his silky hair away, Ouyang Changqing mocked, Brother Wu, you're best worried about yourself, lest you fail miserably. Wu Qingqiu squinted and cupped his hand as he shouted, Goodbye. He took Yang Mo away with heavy steps. Watching them go, Ouyang Changqing turned back and came inside Zhuo Fan's home. Hear that? I just received a challenge to fight with the Western Lands for the best in the world. I don't have time to waste on you and need to tell all my fellow disciples to come see me fight. Oh, of course, talented young Master Ouyang is bound to be victorious. Ha ha ha, Zhuo Fan beamed, easing his tense nerves. Great, now this fool is finally leaving. That should at least give me peace and quiet for today. Since Ling Yuntian had sent this kid to look into them and had yet to show results, he couldn't attack them just yet. And since the plan was to move tonight, their odds were looking good. A true Central Area spy wouldn't have acted so soon, but Zhuo Fan's team was doing it to turn things around and catch them off guard. Zhuo Fan gave the others a look, who smiled and nodded in return. His joy was short-lived as Ouyang Changqing paused. Also, Steward Chen, bring your group over this afternoon to watch me crush Western lands. You can't miss it. Ah. Zhuo Fan looked conflicted. Young Master Ouyang, we've come a long way and aren't even part of the sect. It's best that we don't interfere in the sect and Western lands disciples' conflict. You're too polite. With your group traveling so much, it's rare for you to come to our sect. It's my duty to entertain you guys. We could never impose on the young master's grand hospitality. And we also like peace and quiet, not a fan of bloody fights. Those brutal competitions are. They say merchants know how to read people, so why don't you get it yet? Ouyang Changqing stomped and snapped at them. You're a merchant traveling the lands, gathering information, or better yet, bearing information. I want you to witness the fight so you can spread my heroism to others. So that everyone would know of my feats, of defeating the best disciple in Western lands and soon to become the best disciple in all the lands. If only our disciples know this and spread it around, they'll say we're insidious and conceited. What would be the point of today's win then? Zhuo Fan jerked, giving him a long look and a nod. Oh, right, young master has such foresight, thinking of the people and their opinions. You're a true man of valor, the greatest in northern lands. Just the best. Totally, but this isn't bragging, just the facts. Greatness can never be hidden no matter how modest you are. Like myself, a genius of unparalleled talent, it would be a huge loss for humanity not to let everyone know of my true value. Flicking his silky hair once more, Ouyang Changqing had a look of utter pride plastered on his face, then patted Zhuo Fan's shoulder. Come early this afternoon, or I'll send someone for you instead. I'm not to blame if they're a bit rough compared to me with their invitation. Some people just don't know a good thing when they see it, so petty. Zhuo Fan grimaced as he gave a helpless nod. This damn pompous fool only knows how to brag. I really want to punch him in the face. Oblivious to the others' thoughts, Ouyang Changqing, left in glee, I'll notify Sister Shui of this fight right away. She wasn't there at my fight with Yang Mo and had missed my greatest moments. But now she's definitely going to see everything. Hey. Zhuo Fan sighed as he left, then turned to the others. I hate his type the most, so impulsive and conceited. They always have a knack of messing things up. Only the heavens know what the hell is going on in that mushy brain of theirs. Goes to show something always goes wrong. You may be able to talk your way out of trouble with the older and cunning seniors, but come short when dealing with brats. Barley Yuyu smirked. Zhuo Fan shook his head. This punk only wants to make it big to get as many eyes as possible on him. With there being so many of us, having a couple less won't be noticed. Also, with his obnoxious attitude, he's definitely going to blow this simple match out of proportions. This will lax the guard and give us the perfect chance. You don't need to come to the fight. You'll be scouting out beyond Heaven Island, especially Heaven Sealing Sword's location. You only have that afternoon to get a grasp of the place, moving in once night falls. As for the rest of you, the minute the punk finishes the match, rush to the exit of the sect and get ready to leave. Got that? Crystal. Everyone shouted with solemn looks. Barley Yuyu showed an awfully cheerful smile watching him plan. Chapter 1017, Her. Chapter 1017, Her. Proofreader. Papatonks. Senior brother. On that sunny afternoon, what should have held a measly 10,000 disciples, the stage on Beneath Heaven Island was packed with over 5 times that. There were fervent faces anywhere one looked, holding out 2 spiritual weapons and clanging them together in an unhealthy cheer for the one and only Ouyang Changqing. Zhuo Fan wore an eagle mask as he looked around the literal mob, shouting in one voice, bursting his eardrums, and his only reaction was his twitching face. The fool is the master of the stage. Just the mood alone is enough to bore down on the Western Lands group. Ha ha ha, with this being the Sun Sea Bright sect's home, Ouyang Changqing is like the big bad boss. A guard next to him nodded. Zhuo Fan mocked. While true, this is clearly overdoing it. Sometimes, the more you hype it, the more it makes you look like a thug who's overcompensating for something. Even if he wins now, it'll have the vibe of having gotten his way and not that of the modest man striving to do better. In the end, youth is impulsive. Sir, you sound like a droning senile. Another guard teased Zhuo Fan sighed, it's called experience that ages the mind and reigns in the raging hormones of youth. But this is how youth should be, rash and crazy. To stand out, one must copy Ouyang Changqing here, to grow wings, to pave their future, and to be oblivious to the dangers of the world. He only wants to excel disregarding anyone and anything, making him very susceptible to a crooked and deceptive path. As for the old, they have too many things and take measured steps forward lest they lose it all. This brings about a tranquility to them. While youth is easy prey to deception due to their ignorance, the shrewd seniors have their cautious possess them. Being afraid to lose anything, taking hold of just a bit will gain control of them. Thank you, sir, for these words of wisdom. The guard bowed. I see sir acting with force and also making leaps forward. I wonder in which category sir falls. Zhuo Fan chuckled. Old, ha ha ha, I'm an old demon through and through. If so, sir, I see nothing that could make you relinquish control. That's because I'm hiding it well, out of sight of any prying eyes. Showing my weakness will be no different than presenting my neck. Many oldies notice, but I do it particularly well. Ha ha ha, are you guys planning something for me? No, never, we only listen to the second young master's words. Sir is wise beyond your years and we're lucky to hear your guidance. The guard bowed again. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Wu Randong had gone through a hard time and wants revenge, which means he doesn't trust anyone. He had you follow me to find out about me, didn't he? Though I don't mind. If I can't even hide my secrets from you guys, an oldie like me is better off retiring while he's ahead. Sir, we would never. Everyone bowed. Zhuo Fan didn't mind it, his eyes flashing. Ouyang Changqing finally appeared before them, looking startled at Zhuo Fan's mask. Steward Qian, what's with the new look? Ha ha ha, young master Ouyang, I'm just playing with my daughter and lost. Now she made me wear this ugly mask for the day. Zhuo Fan pointed at Xiao as he said. Ouyang Changqing gave him a long look then mocked. Why take any game with a child seriously? Having come to my grand performance, you ought to cheer for me. You're only making others laugh with that childish mask. You better take it off. Ouyang Changqing reached for it hands off. Father promised me. If you don't like it, shoo. Xiao shouted, stepping between them. Zhuo Fan dodged as well with a smile. Forgive me, young master, I have given my word. I am a father that needs to set an example for my child. Oh, Steward Qian is a great father, putting parenting first. Ouyang Changqing gave a nod of admiration. It takes me back to my own father, who also used to coax me in my childhood, saying he'd let me ride his shoulders. And later. There is no later. He lied to me, never holding his word all these years. Ouyang Changqing gave a long sigh. That's why I hate liars the most. Last night Yang Mo lied to me and today I'm going to give Western lands a lesson they won't soon forget. Zhuo Fan looked stunned then nodded. Oh, young Master Uanag had such a sad childhood. It pains me to hear it. Yeah, I never told anyone about this. You're the first. Patting Zhuo Fan's shoulders, Ouyang Changqing glanced at Xiao then at him with seriousness. Promise me you will never lie to her. I will. Zhuo Fan gave a bitter smile after giving him one last hopeful look. Ouyang Changqing left. Zhuo Fan found his attitude quite funny from where he was standing, commenting, every little devil has a painful past. No wonder Ouyang Changqing grew up parading himself. His father failed his promise in giving him a ride. How sad to be lied to by your dad all these years. Everyone lowered their heads. This pompous fool has yet to experience real pain. Ouyang Changqing has such style. A shout reached them that sounded familiar. Yang Mo and every elite disciple from Western lands made their appearance onto stage. There was also one particular person Zhuo Fan could not take his eyes off. Zhuo Fan shook all over and caught himself, his eyes laced with pain as he balled his fists and clenched his teeth. Everyone was taken aback by his reaction. What's wrong, sir? Zhuo Fan's eyes began to tear up. None of them had ever seen the ever-wise Zhuo Fan lose his cool. They looked ahead at the fluttering white veil and at the delicate figure hiding behind, shivering even from a light breeze. She only looked to be holding on thanks to the two girls attending to her. Ouyang Changqing puffed his chest and strutted before Western Land's group among the deafening roars. Can't I invite some of my fellow disciples to watch my fight? Of course you can. Wu Qingqiu cut off Yang Mo's attempt to speak. It is your sect and it's in your right to have the fight between the strongest disciples of our lands witnessed. It's just that we have someone ill among us that the sudden excitement would be detrimental. Could I ask for your disciples to be a bit quieter? Ill? Ouyang Changqing glanced at the white veil and smirked. Her? Just why have you brought her anyway? Is this how you're helping our northern lands? 3 days ago, sect leader ordered me to go to your land and greet you, where I learned that you are bringing an ill person, frail and of vacant mind. Why is she even here? And now you're telling me a bit of noise will disturb her. Forgive us, her husband passed away 5 years ago and her mind has been lost since from the pain. We've tried everything, even pills, but it is out of our hands. Wu Qingqiu sighed and looked at the white veil in sadness. Her husband died in a huge explosion and now she can't stand loud noises, scaring her. But her husband was also a rare genius, his most notable battle being against the current best disciple in Western lands, Yi Lin. We hoped that by recreating that image would help her recover. Alas, few are those that can be on par with junior brother Yi Lin. Maybe young master Ouyang might just be the one. So we brought her along with this hope in mind. Ouyang Changqing roared in anger. So you're taking this fight as medicine for a dumb woman? Do you have any idea how important this fight is to me? Yet you're just trying to use me, is that it? Of course not. I want you to fight the best disciple in Western lands, to establish yourself as the best disciple in the lands. We're only using this chance to save our junior sister. What is wrong with that? Wu Qingqiu stared Ouyang Changqing in the eye. Chapter 1018, Of One Heart. Chapter 1018, Of One Heart. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ouyang Changqing glared at them and roared, this isn't a play for you to enact, but a sacred competition. What is equally matched? I'm not about to throw the match over a demented woman just so you can have your act. Brothers, I want to hear you cheer. Senior brother, senior brother. See bright sect disciples exploded in an even bigger uproar. Constantly clanging their spiritual weapons, the whole stage rumbled from the noise, and as it thundered in the lady's ears behind the white veil, it made her shiver in fright. The 2 girls helping her held her close to soothe her, their eyes filled with tears. Wu Qingqiu grew angry as he shouted back, Ouyang Changqing, you're a man coming from a respectable clan. Are you not aware that saving a life makes everything worth it? And we're allies as well. You can't even do this little effort. I will never give up no matter what. And I'll be damned if I'll play your little role you have for me, just over some crazy woman. A fake match won't deceive her. We've tried that already. Her mind might be lost but not her eyes. We only want to see the same power struggle we had in the Western lands back then. We think that only you can do it and don't need anything from you, just to give your all. Is that too much to ask? Wu Qingqiu shouted at him. Ouyang Changqing flicked his head away, not willing to cave. Bam! A youth filled with savage aura stepped in, Yi Lin glaring at Ouyang Changqing. Yi Lin mocked, I have no interest in the fight between Western lands and Northern lands' strongest disciples. The only reason I even accepted fighting such a mundane guy like you is to help Sister Qin Cheng. But now, Humph, I think you're in need of a harsh lesson. You're far from ever being my match. You're the best disciple in Western lands. Ouyang Changqing squinted with a cold smile. Fine. Come teach me then. If you're just another pretender, then I'll have Wu Qingqiu answer for it once I'm through with you. I don't care who calls himself the best disciple in Western lands, I'll be finding him once I go through all of you. Senior brothers almighty. Senior brothers almighty. The roaring of the crowd once again exploded and Qing Cheng shuddered in the 2 girls' embrace from terror. Western lands group gnashed its teeth. With Yi Lin filled with murder, why don't we take Qing Cheng back? She shouldn't be here and take this. Shui Ruohua, holding Chu Qingcheng close, said with tears. The others gave a helpless nod. Since Ouyang Changqing was so against it, staying here would only hurt her more, but this bastard Ouyang Changqing has to be put in his place. Every one of them only felt rage and fury for this arrogant prick, wanting to beat him to a pulp. Ouyang Changqing didn't care, since this was his sect, his home, and he had the numbers if it came down to a brawl, as the 2 sides were at odds. One hand extended in front of Chu Qingcheng's eyes as a man with an eagle mask spoke. Miss, it's much quieter where I'm staying. Would you care to sit with me? A fight between two land's strongest disciples shouldn't be missed. Sorry, sir, she needs peace and quiet. I'll take her back. Shui Ruohua gave him a look, then an awkward smile as she refused. Ouyang Changqing was annoyed. Steward Chen, why would you want that crazy woman around you? Also, I know I chose your seat specifically, but it's not that quieter either. Once the fighting starts, it'll be bad for you when the crazy woman starts losing it. Hey, what did you say? Qingqing's mind is only vacant, not crazy. Say that again. Shui Ruohua snapped at him. The people around got enraged as well. Judging by those glares, Zhuo Fan ignored it all and tearfully gazed at Chu Qingcheng. It's really quiet there, believe me. You'll be safe. Sir, we appreciate the gesture, but Qingcheng is too frightened and would never let strangers touch. A sudden chill took her then, noticing that the shivering Qingcheng in her arms no longer shook as she calmed down. Her dainty hand even reached out, to the shock of all present, placing it in Zhuo Fan's wide hand. How is this possible? Shui Ruohua widened her eyes as she and the Western Lands group watched in disbelief. Chu Qingcheng had lost her fame as a cold beauty ever since her husband passed away, and her mind couldn't take it, few people approaching her. Afterward, she hardly met anyone, shunning almost anyone that approached, finding peace only around her two sisters. But today, to this stranger, she reached out on her own. Why? She's even scared of her acquaintances. Elder brother. Only Yi Lin knew Zhuo Fan to be alive and well. He muttered under his breath, watching the man with the eagle mask with a knowing gaze. Bro had been away for so many years. Now he's finally back. Holding Chu Qingqing's hand, Zhuo Fan led her to his spot, under the shock of everyone. With every step, his heart bled. I left to spare her the pain, but now I see that I hurt her the most. Was I wrong? Chu Qingqing's veil fluttered, hiding her face, like that of a child, as she followed Zhuo Fan. Despite the uproar outside, her heart has found peace. The hand felt so familiar to her, and it now became her world. Knowing there was nothing to fear as long as she held it, her mind was vacant and knew not who he was, nor the ones around her, but their hearts had once been one, something that would never change even without needing to see his face. His mere presence made her know by instinct that he was hers and she his. Under the dumb looks of everyone, Zhuo Fan took Chu Qingcheng to his seat. In Barley Yu's place, glancing at Qiaoer, Zhuo Fan said, "Qiaoer, say hello to mother." Mother. Qiaoer could feel a rare warmth from Zhuo Fan's gaze and called out. The others looked at him and one guard sighed, "Sir, we only knew you to be cunning and ruthless, but now we see there's a gentle side as well. But this also revealed to us your weakness." Zhuo Fan sighed a nod, "Yeah, but she can never be my weakness, because I'll always take her with me from now on. They will have to walk over my cold corpse before they can touch her. I will be her shield, and as long as I stand no one can use her." Zhuo Fan looked at Chu Qingcheng with hazy eyes, not knowing if she understood any of it. Her eyes were still vacant, her expression tranquil, like that of an infant sleeping. Only her hand shook slightly. Shui Ruohua and the others saw Chu Qingcheng so at peace around a stranger they didn't know how to react. Needing a moment to come to and go to her, even so, they still couldn't tell who Zhuo Fan was since he had been dead to them for 5 years now. The guards knew how to act, and seeing the two girls looking after Chu Qingcheng, they made way, standing with the other disciples to watch the fight. Now that the mental patient is taken care of, we can begin, but let me reiterate, I will not throw the fight. Ouyang Changqing shouted once more, at which the mob of disciples coming to cheer roared once more. Only this time, Chu Qingcheng no longer shook in fear, holding to the lifeline, the hand that would give her peace. This only baffled Shui Ruohua. Yi Lin had a cold smile as he stood on stage, smirking at Ouyang Changqing. "Then allow me to teach young master some manners. I'd hate to shame my elder brother for not taking care of my sister-in-law." Chapter 1019, You Know Me Best. Chapter 1019, You Know Me Best. Proofreader, Papatonks. Tilda. Yi Lin and Ouyang Changqing stood on the wide stage, with the executives present doing their duty in erecting a barrier to isolate their fight. The loud and raving cheers cut off as well, unable to reach the two fighters. One is a great talent of Western Lands youth, the other is the best disciple in Northern Lands. I wonder how it will turn out. Ha ha ha, this'll be good. I put my money on Changqing. He's been training in heaven-sealing sword art since he was young, and he also had brother Lingtian to nurture him all these years. While Double Dragon Manor trains the most elite disciples, they have lost the best period in life, starting too late. And with the loss of vaulting sword, the kid had no chance of learning of the vaulting sword art. The ending is obvious. That's too soon to tell. Yes, being trained early will help correct any bad habits that might form, but the way Western Lands selects its disciple is from their very best, with each having a specialty. After all, Vaulting Sword ART's character is one of harmony. Western Lands does it so that every disciple gets to further amplify their strengths when they learn from the vaulting sword. It's the best way of training in the vaulting sword art and bring about the greatest talent ever seen, but their vaulting sword is lost. Be that as it may, I heard that the best disciple in Western Lands has such an outstanding talent that makes not learning the vaulting sword art a moot point. How reliable is that info? Now I'm really eager to see how far talent alone can get him against a disciple having learned from a divine sword. Ouyang Changqing did such a great job at spreading the news of his fight that, just like Shuofan predicted, many elders from beyond Heaven Island came over as well. They hovered above, with eager and hopeful eyes just like the roaring mob of disciples below. They were just as interested to see who the best disciple among these two was, but without all the fanaticism. Yi Lin took a deep breath looking at Ouyang Changqing with a smirk and invitation. After you, lest people say I pick on the weak. You got some nerve acting all smug before me when you're only in the second layer of soul harmony stage. How in the world did you even get to be the first disciple with that kind of cultivation is anyone's guess. Ouyang Changqing mocked back, although focused on looking around the audience. Not here still? I even had to insist for 2 hours to get her to agree. Why isn't she here yet? Ouyang Changqing hesitated. Yi Lin's brow shook. Where are you looking? Scared? Get over yourself. I am a great 8th layer soul harmony stage expert. You must be dreaming if you think I'd be scared of someone in the 2nd layer. Ouyang Changqing huffed with disdain, but still scanned the crowd. Such a grand performance comes by rarely. You're turning all my effort and grand heroic performance into wasted effort with your absence, Sister Shui. Sister Shui, quick, it's about to start. Meanwhile, in another area, Shangguan Qingyang kept pulling Murong Shui's arm, running over to the hustle and bustle heard for miles. Murong Shui rolled her eyes. It's just that pompous prick showing off. What are you getting all excited about? I know Ouyang Changqing is the best disciple in Northern Lands with hardly anyone lasting 5 strikes, but his opponent this time is the best disciple in Western Lands. Maybe it'll be a great fight for once. You don't want to see if there are such experts among our peers? Shangguan Qingyang had a very good reason, yet when she arrived at the show, her eyes were everywhere but the stage. She had even less interest in Ouyang Changqing's high-class act. The only reason she came was because she heard Shuofan's group was here to cheer for him. So she thought of an excuse to get Murong Shui to come as well. Was she worried at all that maybe Murong Shui would figure Shuofan out? Absolutely not. She believed Shuofan had taken precautions since he chose to come here. And too, once she spotted him, she'd dump Murong Shui and would shield him from anything. This way they'd also get close. What could possibly go wrong? Having run her plan countless times through her mind, no matter how shallow, she would have Murong Shui as an excuse when coming to the fight anyway. Murong Shui had no clue of her intentions, beginning to assess the fight. Yanger, Ouyang Changqing is strong in the end. While he always carries himself with flair and idles away like a true pompous fool, his upbringing has been perfect. He had started seclusion with his father when he was 5, to understand the heaven-sealing sword art. Not even I can last more than 20 moves against him. Won't that mean the best disciple in Western Lands is going to lose? Shangguan Qingyang giggled. Sister Shui is the strongest disciple in Southern Lands, but for even you to say you're going to lose, won't that mean he has won over Southern Lands youth? While Eastern Lands' strongest disciple was that cousin Yulin. Though even alive he wouldn't be a match to Sister Shui. That means Eastern Lands lost as well. Which leaves Western Lands needing to defeat their best disciple to be the best disciple of the 4 lands. Murong Shui gave a helpless nod. Yeah, now you know why he blew this fight out of proportions. He's about to be the best disciple in the 4 lands, a very good reason to celebrate. And with Western Lands being the last among the lands, Their best disciple is definitely going to fall way short. Now the entire fight had turned into a spectacle for him to look good. That's why I don't feel like coming only to watch his obnoxious grin getting wider. Hey, of course he's obnoxious. Shangguan Qingyang teased, it will go along with your promise. His win will make him the best disciple in the lands and give some credence to becoming the second invincible sword one day in the future. Murong Shui sneered, best in the lands? Second invincible sword? Haha, that's rich. Even if he wins against Western lands today, his winning streak will stop here. There's one among our peers he can never defeat. He has the highest chance of becoming the second invincible sword. Who? Shangguan Qingyan's brow shook, shouting eagerly, it can't be him, right? Murong Shui turned heavy as she spoke, Central Area Sword Star Empire's crown prince, Bailey Jingtian. Him? Yeah, just another Bailey. Murong Shui shook her head with a sigh, I've once gone to the Central Area and met with the prince on several occasions. The Bailey clan is truly incredible, filled with talents and in constant growth. I believe that even 100 years after Invincible Sword, that clan will shock the world with another incredible figure. At the very least, their top 10 princes are on par with the best disciples in the lands. With the first 4 being above us. I couldn't even last a blow against Bailey Jingtian. He's really the second coming of Invincible Sword. Shangguan Qingyan's eyes shook, we really are hopeless. Our homes will all be united under Sword Star Empire's tyranny, with everything destroyed. Yeah, their strength breeds fear and despair. Murong Shui sighed, looking desolate. It was Prime Minister Bailey Jingwei who set up the meeting with the princes. He was then looking to persuade my brother. That's why he put on such a display to intimidate us. I have to admit, it worked. Seeing those princes' power and the immense potential of the Sword Star Empire made me realize with each passing day that we are on our last leg. While we are fighting over who's the best, the Sword Star Empire already took that title, rising to their glory. Maybe the next time, the 4 lands would end up crushed under its power. That's why I feel Ouyang Chongqing's fanfare and conceit as the best disciple in the 4 lands as empty words. Shangguan Qingyang nodded in understanding, sighing, Sister Shui has seen much, unlike us. Being so competitive and drunk on fame is truly childish. Sister Shui, you're here at last. I've waited ages for you. Ouyang Chongqing's eager shout reached Murong Shui waving in excitement. Shangguan Qingyang and Murong Shui had a bitter smile and shook their heads. In such desperate times, he had the leisure to compete over who the best in the alliance was. It only helped to make his childish image in their minds more pronounced. Or to be more accurate, naive Zhuo Fan tensed seeing Murong Shui here. Lowering his head, Chu Qingcheng reached out by herself and held Zhuo Fan's hand, gripping both of them tightly, as if to console him. Although, her eyes were still vacant. Sorry sir, she doesn't know what she's doing. Shui Ruohua startled at Chu Qingcheng's action, wanting to take her hand back at once. It just wasn't proper to do that with a stranger, especially a man. They'd really take her for a crazy woman. Zhuo Fan stopped her, sighing as he gazed into Chu Qingcheng's deep and vacant eyes. After all these years, you know me best. Chapter 1020, Tide. Chapter 1020, Tide. Proofreader, Papatonks. Sir. Shui Ruohua shook at Zhuo Fan's words. Have you met Qingcheng before? With Chu Qingcheng's vacant mind, she would usually avoid anyone who got close, except in this man's case, she actually took initiative. What was even more baffling, no acquaintance could achieve this, not as easily as this man. It could only mean that he had to be a very close friend to Qingcheng, closer than even her fellow sisters. Zhuo Fan said, you could say we are close, but I just can't believe that after all these years, she became like this. I see, so must be an old friend of Qingcheng. Shui Ruohua nodded and sighed inside. Life is in constant change and Qingcheng has suffered so much these years. When her husband passed, Shui Ruohua was filled with grief, speaking of Chu Qingcheng's matters these years, though it felt more like using a shoulder to cry on. Zhuo Fan listened quietly, about his loving wife's troubles, with each word stabbing his heart. The sorrow he felt for her brought him to tears, but he gnashed his teeth and bore through them, forcing those bitter tears to be buried in his heart. The others listened in on the hardships and lowered their heads as they glanced at Zhuo Fan. The stage was drowned in shouts and roars of the crowd, with only this small corner at peace. The pain and sorrow overwhelmed everyone. For a long time Chu Qingcheng had flinched now and then at Shui Ruohua's retelling, slowly leaning on Zhuofan's shoulder. Zhuofan could no longer stop the tears, falling down in waves. In all these years as her husband, only now could he lend his shoulder to his weary wife. He felt pain like no other in all his lives. The crowd was too busy hollering and shouting to pay any attention to their pain. Their eyes bloodshot while watching the stage with fervent joy and thirst for a good fight. Tilda. Yi Lin's knuckles crackled as he stared hard at Ouyang Changqing. You almost had me for a second there, when you bastard said you didn't want Sister Qingcheng to disturb you. But now I see you went to such lengths to set the stage all to show off to a woman. Humph, you're a real piece of work. You'd rather show off to some cheap broad than save a life. I vow on my name as a sacred beast inheritor that I'll put you in your place here and now. Hey, who the hell are you calling cheap? For insulting the woman of my dreams, I will make you pay. Ouyang Changqing cursed back. He exploded with power in a blue glow, cold and thick, giving off a choking feeling under its pressure. The barrier around the stage was unable to contain it, sending the terrifying aura into the crowd. The power of the heaven-sealing sword Ouyang Changqing had been training in for many years now. The disciples clapped and jumped. That's our senior brother Changqing. He has the power to be the best of the best. Yi Lin didn't look remotely impressed, shaking a bit and unleashing a draconic roar from within as flames soared. The golden flames swallowed his body, releasing a searing heat felt by even those outside the stage. It was so bad that the tiles began to buckle and warp under the strain. As for the stage, it split in two, half belonging to Ouyang Changqing's icy heaven-sealing domain, while the other half was Yi Lin's and his blistering decimating golden flame. The two had unleashed their powers and were at an impasse. The audience gasped, too overwhelmed with amazement to keep shouting Ouyang Changqing's name. They came here thinking it would be a short fight like all till now, with Ouyang Changqing reigning supreme like always. Now, however, they were met with a standstill, at least from Aura's standpoint. Silence dominated for once, with faint whispers being heard now and then. None expected a peer of theirs would finally rise that could stand up to Ouyang Changqing's power. This was bound to be an awesome fight. The oldies spectating were taken aback as well, smiling and nodding. The best disciple in Western lands lives up to his name. The fight is going to last a while, ha ha ha. Shangguan Qingyang pulled at Murong Shui in all her excitement. Sister Shui, it's nothing like you said. Ouyang Changqing might not win this one. Oh, it does seem like it. Murong Shui was stunned as well. I would never guess the dry Western lands of talent would give birth to such an outstanding man. Shangguan Qingyang looked smug. What do you think of my Zhuofan then? He's from Western lands too. However, Murong Shui smirked. Their display only proved their training is the same, but not who wins. It will solely rest on the skills, cultivation method, and attacks. Ouyang Changqing is the son of the strongest in northern lands, Ouyang Lingtian. Such things are nothing for him, but as for that Western lands kid. Shangguan Qingyang grinned. We'll just have to wait and see. Murong Shui looked interested for a change, her eyes no longer flat but having a spark of curiosity, face twitching. Ouyang Changqing looked at his opponent having matched him in aura, and frowned. He glanced at Murong Shui then at Yi Lin and clenched his fists. I've underestimated you, boy, you're nothing like everyone I fought so far. Curses, this fight may not be the show I want it, but since Sister Shui is watching, I'm not going to let it disappoint. Speed is of the essence. I'm going to finish him off before he gets any chance to fight back and drag things on. It will only make me look like a fool. I had ignored my adversaries so far, but not this one. The crux is Sister Shui is watching and I cannot let it show I'm sweating even a drop. Ouyang Changqing gnashed his teeth and shot for Yi Lin. Yi Lin laughed and met him halfway. You got the wrong guy if you think you can match me in a brawl. Bam! A shocking explosion echoed as the punch and kick collided. The powerful shockwave was so strong it even made the barrier tremble. The two jumped back to their place, but while Yi Lin stretched out his golden scale arm with a sinister smirk, Ouyang Changqing's leg was jerking, clearly in pain from holding it up. God damn it. Why's the punk's body so damn hard? Not even my heaven-sealing sword art strengthened body can match. Is he a monster? Ouyang Changqing gnashed his teeth and glanced at the stunned crowd. Senior brother actually came out at a disadvantage in the first exchange. Even the oldies were amazed. The Western Lands kid is great. I had never seen Changqing so distressed. 4 Western Lands to have such an amazing talent, it must be once in millennias. Another elder nodded. Western Lands is filled with talent that don't just stop with him. A sudden speaker said. The others flinched and gasped. Exalted He Ran, what are you doing here? Aren't you helping the Shangguan clan unseal the soaring sword? Why? That seal is not only strong but queer as well. We've been giving our very best for 3 days and 3 nights now, yet still couldn't lift it. I came out for a breath of fresh air, letting old Bai have a go. Exalted He Ran gave a casual wave. The others bowed. Exalted He Ran is working hard. But what does Sir mean by that? You're saying Western Lands has more disciples like him? No way. That and then some. Then why is he the best? Because the strongest has died years ago. If he was alive, I dare say he'd become the second invincible sword. It would have given us hope of fighting the Central Area's ambition, but He Ran grew sullen as he sighed. The others were startled at the revelation, but also skeptical. Is the old guy for real, or mere bragging? Since when did Western Lands become a trove of talents? For even their second choice for best could push Northern Lands' best disciple. What does that say about the Western Lands' best? Chapter 1021, Evoking Heaven Art. Chapter 1021, Evoking Heaven Art. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yang Mo, you were right. Ouyang Changqing really can fight junior brother. Maybe not to the level of Zhuo Fan's fight with junior brother, but it should come close with how they are. Outside the arena, Wu Qingqiu commented on the fight, telling Yang Mo, you've done well. Yang Mo dismissed his praise. It's nothing. I went first with Ouyang Changqing, to test his strength. I lasted 20 rounds with him, while only holding for 18 with Yi Lin. The best disciple in Northern Lands is a show-off, but does live up to his name at least. I just hope the fight could stir Chu Qingqing's mind, the least we can do for Zhuo Fan's spirit. Yeah, this fight is our hope to bring Zhuo Fan's spirit peace. If even this won't work, then nothing will. Wu Qingqiu sighed, glancing at Chu Qingcheng and seeing her peaceful face leaning on Zhuo Fan's shoulder. Her tranquility caught him off guard, especially since there was a huge fight going on and she had no sign of being afraid. He signaled Yang Mo and said, Hey, Yang Mo, who is that guy? Junior sister Qingcheng has been at peace ever since they met. It's baffling. Yang Mo frowned and shook his head. I have no idea. He's wearing a mask so I can't tell. Though I don't think it would make a difference even if he hadn't. From Ouyang Changqing's introduction, he's a merchant from Northern Lands. We've hardly ever left Western Lands, so we'd definitely not recognize him. Why do I get a familiar feeling about him then? Wu Qingqiu's senses threw him into a state of confusion, but he put it all aside and focused on the fight. Ouyang Changqing looked around after his first loss and saw Murong Shue's eager eyes. His delusion made him believe she was rooting for him with that hopeful gaze. So he gnashed his teeth and weaved signs with every sign. Thunder boomed and rumbled as a sudden heavy air overtook the area. Soon, the people found it hard to even breathe. As the warmth was sapped away, ice began to form and spread. The oldies cried out at his actions, evoking heaven art? Does he plan to finish it by showing his cards so soon? Evoking heaven art? Exalted He Ran started as well. See Bright Sect's main earth-ranked martial art, that evoking heaven art? The skill is said to have come from understanding the heaven-sealing sword. One old man nodded gravely. Yeah, the heaven-sealing sword contains the power of seals. By learning its art one gains knowledge about the sealing way and breaking way. The evoking heaven art came from the heaven-sealing sword's breaking way. Exalted He Ran, cultivators need to reach Genesis stage to draw upon the world's power and grow their sword's power to unseen levels. But the evoking heaven art breaks the chains of the world and uses its power before one reaches Genesis stage while unleashing the same type of might as a Genesis stage expert. It's an outrageous art, and the more worldly power is drawn, the bigger the impact. In other words, Ouyang Changqing has become, for a brief moment, a Genesis stage expert. Exalted He Ran gasped as he looked intently at the fight. Since they're even, won't that mean Ouyang Changqing has gained the upper hand with this boost in cultivation stage? Soul harmony cultivators are seen as weak to any Genesis stage expert. Yi Lin is no normal soul harmony expert, but neither is Ouyang Changqing in his now temporary Genesis stage. He is an inheritor of the heaven-sealing sword art. Yi Lin's hopes are slim at best. The elder shook his head with a sigh. Exalted Hei Ran has to look closer. The evoking heaven art is no secret art, but it has its fair share of dangers. One needs to exercise restraint when it comes to worldly power. Not even a fresh Genesis stage cultivator has much control over the worldly power, let alone in the soul harmony stage. If he goes beyond his limits, the power will go berserk and it will take it out on him. At worst, he'll be ripped to shreds, at heaven's mercy. Ouyang Changqing is the best disciple in northern lands. He has at least that self-control, right? I fear his reckless youth will get the best of him. You can tell by how the fight developed. I fear he will not only hurt his opponent but himself as well, just for the sake of winning. The old man sighed. I can only hope that his opponent will fall quickly so he can reign in the worldly power before it causes harm. Exalted Hei Ran smirked. That's going to be hard. Yi Lin is quite unyielding. When he fought the best disciple in Western lands, he almost bet his life. He's only standing there because I stepped in. They shared bitter smiles and shook their heads. Why did it have to be these two pig-headed fools that have to fight? The fight was worrying the elders, but the audience was oblivious to the danger, exploding the minute Ouyang Changqing unleashed his great move. Ouyang Changqing saw the cheers aimed at him and the girl of his dreams watching him, and smiled. His signs formed faster. The more signs he formed, the harder the pressure of the world bore down, with a bone-chilling coldness spreading. Icy sword waves formed in the sky as they flew around, spreading shock and fear. Yi Lin no longer had a smug look, but became serious, his fists clenching rumble. With Ouyang Changqing's final sign, lightning split the skies, unleashing a deafening thunder. One black cloud exploded into myriads of icy swords, gathering around Ouyang Changqing and numbering in the tens of thousands. Bang tilde. Some scraped the barrier of the stage and punched holes in it like it wasn't even there. The safeguard was now gone. The audience was too incensed to care, shouting harder than ever and chanting his name. With the fall of the barrier, everyone, even the crowd, was now part of the fight, and being part of such a fight only meant one thing for them: death. While they were blissfully oblivious to the incoming doom, the oldies picked up on the crisis. Blast it. Now if anything happens, it will only become worse. Humph. That kid just had to pick beneath Heaven Island stage for his fight. Doesn't he know this stage is meant for average disciple spars? Its barrier isn't strong either. It's because most people are on beneath Heaven Island. Ouyang Lingtian's son is like the rumors paint him, vain. Exalted Hei Ran smiled. Well, aren't you going to stop him? The oldies paused. Exalted Hei Ran, why don't you try? TCH, hell no. Exalted Hei Ran rolled his eyes. It's your home, so how could I step in? Until my disciples are in peril, I won't budge an inch. Any sooner and it will be taken as Western land's defeat. While a mere children's quarrel, we all have our dignity, all right? The oldies shook their heads. We can't step in either. Changqing is pig-headed but has great talent. He's going to take his father's place and wield Heaven's sealing sword, that is certain. And you want us to barge in into his most prideful moment and his fun? TCH, a bunch of bootlickers. It goes to show how it got to his head and beyond. You always indulged him. Exalted Hei Ran clicked his tongue and he watched the oldies had no comeback, silently accepting his jab. None would step in until it was too late. Like whether the kid was suicidal or not had nothing to do with them below. Sword energies roamed around with the world's energy filling the air at Ouyang Changqing's whim. He grew excited because none had brought him this far, making him feel the amazing power for the first time. Having the world in the palm of his hand was intoxicating. Ouyang Changqing shouted and pointed at the skies. The thousands of sword energies combined and formed into a sword image with a cold edge 300 meters tall. Its unstoppable aura shimmering the air around it. Wu Qingqiu cried out. This is the power of the world Ouyang Changqing is able to use, but why? Curses, how is that little junior brother able to take such a boosted move? This is not as simple as a mere boost, but a gap in stages. Hardly anything can bridge the gap between Soul Harmony stage and Genesis stage. Yang Mo gnashed his teeth. The two were equal, but now, with this incredible secret skill, Yi Lin will have a hard time overcoming it, even with all he has. Wu Qingqiu sighed, glancing at Chu Qingcheng. I hope to give her an even fight, but Ouyang Changqing went all out too quickly, becoming overwhelming in power. It took all the thrill out of it. The others sighed a nod. Only Yi Lin looked at Shuofan below, his eyes thirsting for battle. After turning to his opponent, golden flames burst from his eyes, as if to prove his resolve. Elder brother, watch closely. I have lost to you before, but after these years, I'm just as good as you. Chapter 1022, Shocking Move. Chapter 1022, Shocking Move. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ha ha ha, can you feel the extent of my power? Give up while you still can. We're allies and would hate to leave you hurting and break our land's relations. Have some common sense and I will make sure to follow in my footsteps of grandeur. With the heavens sword in my hands, the world's my oyster. Ouyang Changqing raised his hand and lifted the terrible and sharp illusory sword, feeding his ego as he spoke with conceit. As for the audience, they only grew more excited with his confidence. Only Murong Shui gave Shangguan Qingyang a bitter look. He has the power, but nothing beats his narcissism. The more I think about it, the more I fear for the future of the northern lands with him in the lead. Yi Lin gave him a cold look, not at all impressed by the humongous flashy sword above his head. He actually had the nerve to taunt, "Don't get ahead of yourself. It's too soon to tell, don't you think, brother Ouyang? You really think you have it in you to take on this sword? I'm going to crush it." With golden flames shining in his eyes, Yi Lin shouted, his body exploding with power, "This is a secret art I could only use once in the Soul Harmony stage. I planned on using it on elder brother when we sparred again, but since we met first, I'll let you have a taste." Decimating Inferno, fire dragon form, Yi Lin roared at the heavens, followed by draconic howls, shaking the air with every rumble. Scorching and golden lights shot from his body like a volcanic eruption, illuminating the whole sky. A dreaded heatwave spread, enveloping half the world in a red hue and the audience in a hot spell. As for Yi Lin, under the shocked eyes of the crowd, began to change. Golden scales formed on his body and his teeth turned into sharp fangs. He was now like a wild beast, and from the shape of his head, it was that of a dragon. Everyone gasped at the sudden transformation. Is his soul the greatest heaven dragon soul? How else could he take this form in Soul Harmony stage? His power and yuan qi amount had to be multiplied. There are now some good chance he might actually take on the sword. Ouyang Changqing huffed, "So what if you have the heaven dragon soul? My sword is from the heaven sealing sword art. Even if you harmonized with the heaven dragon soul, it won't do a damn thing. Humph, do you really think this is your average soul harmony? Ignorant whelp, just watch. I told you, this is fire dragon form, not your average fake draconic soul harmony." Yi Lin smirked and shouted again. Boom. Akin to a detonation, the violent golden flames shot from his body in every direction. The great power made the audience squint, feeling on their skin the searing heat he released. Ouyang Changqing gasped, his mind going a mile a minute as he reproached, "Brothers, this is but a fight for the best in the alliance, not to the death. Could you not detonate, please?" The oldies were just as stunned, gaping at the display. Not even exalted He Ran acted with more composure. Why is Yi Lin so panicked to detonate? He's not even cornered yet. Standing there for any longer would let the inferno reach the crowd and would be sure to leave countless casualties. The elders were ready to stop this from happening. Ouyang Changqing grew serious as well, about to slash with his sword and stop the incoming golden flames, and yet, the spreading golden inferno paused and pulled back in on the stage, forming a huge fire tornado, punching a hole in the skies. When the tornado settled, a deafening draconic cry racked the audience's ears. The elders, Ouyang Changqing, even exalted He Ran watched with dumb look at the incredulous scene unfolding. Yi Lin had been hiding such a move even in the years spent inside Double Dragon Manor. Yi Lin was nowhere to be seen on stage, replaced with a 300-meter tall golden and flaming dragon soaring high above. Where it passed, the air shimmered, As if the skies feared the divine dragons' roars, only a divine beast could have the might to challenge heavens, never content with just holding the world's power. Yi Lin was now a fire dragon, his power being on the level of heaven itself. Why then should he care if the opponent used worldly power? Ouyang Changqing's brow shook, still holding the sword, but his gaze was lost. Screw you. That's no soul harmony dragon, but the real thing. Talk. Where the hell did Western lands get such a monster, you damn abomination? Wu Qingqiu and the rest from Western lands were floored. They knew Yi Lin was badass, but only now knew he held a skill that could rival heaven's. Ouyang Changqing had now met his match as a fight like no other was about to unfold. The fight sure was intense. On the level of Zhuo Fan and Yi Lin's back in Western lands, Wu Qingqiu and Yang Mo shared a smile, then looked at Chu Qingcheng. Shangguan Qingyang was dazzled, looking astonished. Sister Shui, it's totally worth it. Yeah, it's beyond my imagination the best disciple in Western lands to be of such amazing talent to fight the son of Ouyang Lingtian. He is on the level of the best 4 princes of the Bailey clan. As for the strongest Bailey Jingtian, Murong Shui side, I don't know for sure since we never fought, but these two give us hope. Bam! Yi Lin's huge bulk landed on stage, the large vertical eyes staring at Ouyang Changqing, while sometimes glancing at Zhuo Fan. See that, bro? This is my power, just like yours. His mood got killed the minute he saw Zhuo Fan never even looking at him. Zhuo Fan's eyes were only on Chu Qingcheng's peaceful features as he listened to Shui Ruohua tell him of Chu Qingcheng's troubles, shaking his huge dragon head. Yi Lin sighed with disappointment, focusing on his adversary instead. He opened his maw to reveal the human-sized fangs as he laughed. Boy, you dare talk big with me? You're only asking me to tear into you. Bam! The dragon claw slammed on stage, crumbling it to pieces. The powerful shockwave howling as it spread to the audience and burning his majestic visage in their trembling hearts. It was like they were seeing a real dragon in all its glory, robbing them of their breaths. All the resounding support Ouyang Changqing had been getting from his fellow disciples was now quashed under the oppressive power of the dragon before them. They couldn't muster the slightest peep, feeling utterly inferior. Yi Lin was a true dragon, a king in his own right. Before the masses for the first time ever, the stage had sunk in complete silence. No one held more authority than the fire dragon's royal aura. Ouyang Changqing started to sweat as he watched the huge dragon, but his heart burned with anger. He didn't know what abomination Yi Lin was, with how the average soul harmony stage cultivator merely took on the appearance of the soul beast, bumping up their power a bit. But this guy in front of him became a true dragon no matter how he looked at it. That was not a human standing before him, but a dragon made of fire. He didn't care how or why it happened, only feeling that his grand performance had been squashed. All eyes were now on Yi Lin's magnificent and royal form as he became a prop. It was a blow his ego was incapable of taking. He had fought so many times, but when did he ever become the extra? This time there were so many people watching, all thanks to his efforts too, and to show off in front of the girl of his dreams. But all that popularity had gone away in a flash. Would a man of his endless pride allow for another to steal his limelight? He had to win this at all costs, or it would haunt him for the rest of his days. Ouyang Changqing gnashed his teeth and resolve glowed in his eyes. The sword above him grew more savage. I don't care if you're a fake or not, I'll slaughter you where you stand. Ouyang Changqing waved and brought down the great sword on Yi Lin's huge dragon bulk. Chapter 1023, Berserk. Chapter 1023, Berserk. Proofreader. Papatonks. Who tilde. The large sword carried the power of the world as it came down on the dragon head. Its chilling aura swept the stage, cooling the heart coming from Yi Lin. The dragon's surging fires dimmed and flickered as well. Yi Lin's brow shook, still having the calm of mind to know that the heaven-sealing sword art held the power to contest the dragons. So he willed the flames to reach 10 meters once more as he used his big claws to grasp the large sword. Bam! The claws screeched as they made contact, with hot and cold fighting for supremacy. Ouyang Changqing strained with a red face to bring that large sword down while Yi Lin forced himself with a soaked brow to keep the flames burning against the icy blade. Even as they slowly got put out, they both used all they had, but they were now at a standstill. The prolonged tension brought unease to the crowd, looking on nervously and eager to know the final winner. The best disciple in the alliance. You think you can best me with just your power? In your dreams. Evoking heaven art. Pushing hard for 15 minutes, yet the claws held the sword at bay still. Ouyang Changqing had lost his patience. Yi Lin's true dragon form was too strong, able to counter the power of the world with only his strength. Thinking about it, he realized the yuan qi reserves Yi Lin had were gigantic as well. Thus letting it drag out would be to his detriment. He might have borrowed the world to bump his power. The yuan qi he used to gain control over it was too taxing to keep running for long. Speed was of the essence. Today was also the first time he used evoking heaven art and controlled so much worldly power. And if he tried to take some more? Ouyang Changqing hesitated, but then he saw Yi Lin's conviction. He just gnashed his teeth and shouted as he made the signs. Another rumble spread through the skies as sword energy gathered in his hand and flowing into the large sword. The sword's coldness flared with power, pushing back harder against Yi Lin's draconic body, snapping the stage in half from the force. Ouyang Changqing grew pleased at the results. Let's see you last now. The oldies of the Sea Bright sect were getting tense by the moment, evoking heaven art again. It should be fine. Let's hope so. They shook their heads in worry. The audience cheered at their senior brother's comeback, though drowned soon after by another draconic roar. As he pushed at the incoming sword, he also lashed out with the searing and flaming tail. Bam! The large sword shook as it dimmed. Ouyang Changqing shook with it, pushed back a bit. But it was his heart that couldn't take the reality. Yi Lin smirked and wheezed, while still having the energy to mock. Brat, let's see how far worldly energy can take you. Humph, isn't it something you drew with your yuan qi? The minute the sword shakes the slightest bit, your yuan qi is affected. How will you draw worldly power in that state? One tiny shift and everything will come down crashing. Your evoking heaven art isn't anything to look at. Yi Lin flared his fire and pushed at the large sword. Bam! Ouyang Changqing's face twisted as he paled. Damn punk, I'll get you for this. With his opponent figuring out his weakness, Ouyang Changqing ignored everything and made signs again. I'll show you the true power of the heaven sealing sword art. Heaven sealing art. The large sword exploded into many cold blades and shot for Yi Lin's bulk. Invisible and unnoticed, Yi Lin surged in the sky because of the loss of resistance, but then the sword waves battered his body, snuffing out the flames and even forming ice. Yi Lin cried out, "What is this thing? I can't move. Ha ha ha, see that? This is the true power of the heaven sealing sword art." Sealing. Ouyang Changqing laughed in pride. Once caught, strength won't matter, for you can't move a muscle. You lost, Western Lands brat. Yi Lin's face twisted in defiance. The elders above gasped. Evoking heaven art uses the breaking way, while heaven sealing art the sealing way. Who told him to use both of them at the same time? He's only making it worse. What's the problem? Exalted Heiran felt bad for seeing his disciple lose, but then he heard them and asked, "You're saying this is more dangerous than evoking heaven art?" The elders nodded. Yeah, overusing evoking heaven art only gets the power to run berserk and could step in to get control over it. But with how these skills engender each other, the loss of control will mean a rampant surge of worldly power no one can grasp unless the seal is released. This happened only once, 2,000 years ago, with the wielder using the heaven sealing sword to cut off the power of the world from unleashing a disaster. But even then, there were countless casualties and thus was forbidden. I did not expect Changqing to use it today to win a match. Is it because it happened so long ago? Kids these days have no idea of the horrors of the past. Then are you going to do something about it, or just watch? Of course we'll stop it no matter what. The elders went down, but then the dragon roared, and as the ice was about to swallow Yi Lin, the golden flames flickered to life once more, breaking it down. But there was also blood flowing from his mouth. Ouyang Changqing sneered, "Using your blood essence to stir your potential? Humph, it's no use. The worldly power at my disposal is boundless. How long can you last? Evoking heaven art?" Ouyang Changqing made signs once more. "Don't do it." One elder shouted in panic. Ouyang Changqing was too far gone now, obsessed with winning, with proving himself best. Worldly power gathered once more, bearing down in the form of another sword. Ouyang Changqing shifted his signs, heaven sealing sword art. The elders' faces twitched, unable to stop him in time. The sword energies coming from the heavens had yet to fully form and turned into cold energy the next second. Gunning for Yi Lin, it formed another cage in an instant. Yi Lin's heart jumped in shock, fighting to keep his golden flames burning and fight off the cold. It was no use, for the two arts had now set free the world's energy out of Ouyang Changqing's control. The world formed a sword by itself, then transformed into cold blades that struck Yilin. Ouyang Changqing laughed in glee. Ha ha ha, you can actually use both arts at the same time for an even greater effect to unleash all the endless power of the world. My win is set. How come I couldn't see this before? You saw shit. That's losing control of the worldly power and bringing about destruction. One elder flashed before him and shouted at the others, "Send for Lingtian at once. Tell him to come with the heaven-sealing sword and break the link." Ouyang Changqing looked baffled. "Elder, what's wrong? Aren't I the first who used the two arts together? You think yourself so clever, is that it?" The elder's face twitched, looking distraught and fearful at the sword coming from the sky. Yilin roared once more, trapped in ice again, but this time the ice was bizarre, working to swallow his bulk until he turned into a dragon statue of ice. His eyes then flared with savagery behind the ice. Chapter 1024, Ouyang Lingtian. Chapter 1024, Ouyang Lingtian. Proofreader. Papatonks. Whoosh tilde. Sword energies flew around the sky, slamming into the ice dragon and adding to the seal. The ice dragon howled at the sky with such power it crushed the stage, then blew his breath on the audience. One of ice and cold. The chilling breath swept the unfortunate ones and turned them into statues of ice in mid-panic. So deep was the cold that it froze their very souls. We're finish. The heaven and earth has gone berserk. One elder held his head and sighed bitterly. Ouyang Changqing was enraged when Yilin attacked his fans. "Hey, Western Lands punk, have you lost your mind? You're the demented one, Changqing." The elder shook his head and snapped at him. "Have you any idea what calamity you caused? Evoking heaven art and heaven sealing art engender each other. Evoking heaven art breaks, opening a channel into the world so you can draw its power. While heaven sealing art seals this channel and the power. When a cultivator uses the worldly power, it would dissipate afterward and return to its rightful place, back to the world. This is its nature, but you opened a channel into the world, then had it sealed in place. The minute you lost all control over that power, it started spilling into reality without stopping thanks to locking the channel while also running amok with no one to direct it. And this is the result." Ouyang Changqing's eyes went wide, scratching his head classlessly. "Elder, so you're saying the dragon isn't that guy but amassed worldly power? Why is it attacking people then? Isn't it just energy? The world has spiritual energy, so it must have its own will." The elder shook his head. Once a cultivator draws upon the worldly power, they can control it, but now this power has gone berserk, gathering in one place and also gaining sentience from the will of the world. With heaven and earth going crazy, you have no idea what kind of a disaster it can cause. It's beyond anything humanly possible. Ouyang Changqing looked at the far ice dragon with a deep frown. "What about the Western Lands punk? You're saying the power focused on him and it's controlling him? What about his mind? Has it been swallowed? You have the nerve to ask." The elder's face twitched and shook his head. "Have you no clue what you just did? You used heaven sealing sword art and he's been frickin' sealed. Now the power of the world is going into the dragon without a conscience, the best thing for it. If the mind was still there, some control would have been possible. This time is going to be even harder to deal with than 2,000 years ago. Your father is going to tan your hide." Ouyang Changqing's lip quivered, like he was a naughty child caught red-handed and looking guilty. The roars echoed across the skies as the ice dragon flung its bulk around and spraying ice to freeze everything. The only expressive thing about these lifelike statues were the fearful eyes and the shocked faces. Wu Qingqiu cried out, "Little junior brother, what happened to you? Stop. Who tilde?" The ice dragon blew ice once more. Wu Qingqiu knew he was going to fall under such power and rushed to dodge. His leg ended up being caught in the blast, freezing over. "Sir, what just happened? Go and take Qingcheng away." The peaceful storytelling had now come to an abrupt end as a monster rampaged around, turning people into popsicles. Shui Ruohua gasped and reached for Chu Qingcheng to take her away from this dangerous place. Shui Fan regarded the peaceful face of his wife and smiled. "It's fine, there's no need to disturb her." "You haven't finished the story, Miss Shui, please continue." "As if. With so much chaos around the world might be ending, and you're asking me to tell you a bedtime story? Even if I might be suicidal, I will never let any harm come to Qing Cheng. What kind of a sister you take me for? While she was insisting on taking Chu Qing Cheng, one guard grabbed her hand. Miss, since Sir said you may continue, then it's fine. Please trust him. We're also here and shall keep the danger at bay from reaching Miss. Looking into Zhuo Fan's eyes, then into those eyes filled with complete trust, she turned to watch the berserk ice dragon. Shui Ruohua hesitated, but she had no choice other than nod. Even if against it, Zhuo Fan smiled and looked at Qing Cheng next to him lovingly. Bam. On stage, exalted Hei Ran shot a sword energy at the ice dragon and break the ice on it and reach his dear disciple. But the dragon shook and all the ice splashing about was soon absorbed into its body along with the power of the strike. Exalted Hei Ran gasped in fright. What in the world is that thing? Exalted, please refrain from doing anything. Nothing we do will have any effect. One elder with a white beard came over as he explained hastily, that is the embodiment of the heaven-sealing sword art. No matter what skill is used, it will only be absorbed by the seal and become its own power. That's why nothing we do to it will help. We can only protect the other disciples and flee from here. Exalted Hei Ran was astonished, then he glanced at the panicking disciples fleeing for their lives, still ending up in ice from the dragon's breath, and said, if you say this thing's unstoppable, how then do we deal with it? We can't let it run amok and freeze the whole sect. Exalted, it can seal everything but the 5 great divine sword. The man cupped his hands and pointed at the ice swords raining down from above. Even now, please observe, the channel into the world has been opened, turning into an infinite loop. Our only hope is to dodge and wait for Brother Lingtian to come with the heaven-sealing sword and seal the channel, then cut it to disperse all that power. He will also go easy as to save your disciple as well. Exalted Hei Ran's brow shook, looking at the ice dragon freezing anything that moved with a sigh. He relinquished a nod. This thing was now part of the world, undying and unstoppable. The more power they used on it, the more it absorbed. The only option right now was to wait for Ouyang Lingtian to come to the rescue and fix this damn mess his own son made. Ouyang Changqing looked at the ice dragon ruining everything, out of his control, and felt so bad he could cry. I can't tell if Dad will come to strike me down or the dragon first. Sniff. Ouyang Changqing, this is all your fault. You did this, you caused this disaster to fall on so many lives. 2 girls flashed out of nowhere. Shangguan Qingyang glared at him and started cursing. Murong Shui was furious as well, full of hatred. Murong Shui's hatred, however, was due to having involved innocents. Shangguan Qingyan's rage was because she worried for Zhuo Fan, so she was taking it out on him. She was running her mouth while looking around for Zhuo Fan with everyone in panic. It was hard to look. Ouyang Changqing lowered his head in guilt under the chastising look of the girl of his dreams. He was even more accepting of his guilt than when faced with his father. There. Shangguan Qingyang spotted Zhuo Fan, still sitting without a worry and listening to everything talk about monstrous, not even having a healthy respect for the worldly abomination running amok just next to him. Maybe it felt the contempt, or maybe all the targets fled and left only Zhuo Fan's group still untouched. But the ice dragon roared and set its eyes on them. It shot for them, its icy aura freezing the area around it as it passed. Watch out. Shangguan Qingyang cried out in fright, a little too late. The others around her looked down just in time to see another poor souls being sacrificed to the calamity. Leave this to me, a resounding voice spoke. Tilda. The cold humming of a sword was heard as a figure in grey rushed over at full speed. Dad. Ouyang Changqing cried out, thrilled and scared. While the others looked on in hope, Northern Land's best, Ouyang Lingtian, finally arrived with heaven-sealing sword to clean up his son's mess. Chapter 1025, Thunderflame Wraithclaw. Chapter 1025, Thunderflame Wraithclaw. Proofreader, Papatonks. Heaven-sealing sword art, heaven-breaking strike. A dignified man with a grey robe fluttering in the wind appeared. He had sharp eyes and sharp features. He wielded an azure long sword, giving a dazzling light. Its sharp edge promised to cut everything in creation, even the world, humming all along. The sharp sword energy rushed out of the tip and went for the ice dragon, moving with incredible speed through the air. The others watched in awe as the best in Northern Lands made his move. As he was in mid-strike, someone shouted at him, Brother Lingtian, please go easy. The ice dragon has my disciple sealed. Please spare his life. There's actually someone in there. Isn't it like the disaster 2,000 years ago? Ouyang Lingtian's eyes shook from the news and he halted the attack. He looked back to see Western Land's exalted He Ran speaking up. Ouyang Lingtian went back to the raging ice dragon about to run into Zhuofan. He was hesitating, not knowing where the sealed disciple was under all that ice, and one wrong move would cleave him. By hurting exalted Double Dragon's precious disciple would mean ruining their cooperation, while delaying would also implicate the people it targeted, under the ice's torment from the dragon. The sudden conundrum had the best in northern lands stuck: save one and let many die to keep the land's friends still, or accept the loss of a single life for the good of many. Ouyang Lingtian found it a very tough choice to make. Which was worth it? The alliance or the lives below? It was a headache even for the most righteous characters, but he had omitted one last choice: inaction, leaving the ice dragon to rampage for Zhuofan's group. Now no one could save them. His attack would be too late for the sword energy to reach them in time. The ice dragon would have crushed them to pieces by the time he struck to others. It looked like Ouyang Lingtian had made no choice when he actually did. Yi Lin was brought at their invitation by exalted He Ran with the promise of safety. With Western Land's crucial situation, his safety was just as vital. Far more so than a few random lives. The righteous path stated that all lives were equal. But when people were involved, that value tended to change to suit their needs. Ouyang Lingtian held the sword tight and sighed. Down below it was life and death, yet the matters of the world had won over his principles. He wanted to save everyone, but he stayed his hand. Not for the life inside the ice dragon, but the ties among the two lands. No matter how huge the collateral, the essential personnel had to be kept alive, lest it would cause tension between factions. Such was the secular world. The five lands' best experts could be all noble as much as they wanted, but it still didn't change the fact they were tied in the vicious interests of the world around them. Shangguan Qingyang had hoped for Ouyang Lingtian's appearance, so that Zhuofan would be saved. But the best in northern lands' rescuing strike failed to deliver. It astonished her to no end. Why aren't you doing anything? Yeah, Dad would always help people in need. Why is today any different? Is he afraid of harming innocents from how far we are? Ouyang Changqing cried out. Murong Shue's brow shook and sighed. It's not a stray attack he fears, but his already stray heart. The ice dragon roared once more, carrying unstoppable power straight at Zhuofan, surrounding them in a harsh cold mist. The slightest touch would mean being frozen on the spot. Now there was no escape. Junior sister Qingcheng, junior sister Shui. Wu Qingqiu cried out, with the others around him nervous for their fate. Shangguan Qingyang cried out in panic, look out Shui dash. There was no stopping the ice dragon's charge. It raised its claw and went for their lives, to crush them to an icy pulp. Shui Ruohua and the other girl stood rooted in place. They glanced at the unfazed Zhuofan, still sitting in his spot, with reproachful gazes. I told you we should run, but you just had to play it cool. Now look what happened. There's nowhere to go now. If you find death so nice, why the hell did you have to drag us with you as well? Look at Qingcheng, she's still lost in her own mind. The poor girl is about to fade away, all due to some damn stranger. Well, aren't you all pissed your boss is so stubborn he just had to have you all die as well? Shui Ruohua turned to the guards then, only to find them just as cool. Shui Ruohua was stumped. Are they all suicidal? You don't mind dying with such a master? Having been around Zhuofan for this long journey, they figured out early on how he operated. From inciting frigid rain sword king, to facing invincible sword, whenever he showed complete calm, then it was proof enough that all would be fine. Zhuofan held Chu Qingqing's hand, her head leaning on his shoulder, in utter tranquility, even more so than usual. So why would they rack their nerves? They had complete trust in Zhuofan's control, worshipping his flawless skills. It could have come from a horde of dragons for all they cared. So long Zhuofan was chill, so were they. Hu tilde. The ice winds blew, surrounding the area in its great power. Even the seats chilled over and froze their rears. It was then the two claws were right on top of them. Shui Ruohua's eyes rolled back, about to faint from terror. The onlookers, Wu Qingqiu, Yang Mo, Murong Shui and the others were filled with worry but equally helpless. Ouyang Lingtian sighed, closing his eyes, unable to bear seeing the result of his choice. They might be collateral, but lives nonetheless that he brought doom upon. He felt he had lost all dignity. Exalted He Ran looked at the three girls below with a shake of his head and guilt. To save Yi Lin and the Western Land's future, he had given up on the expendables. It was certain to all here that Shuo Fan's group was finished, sighing at the loss. But the deadly ice claws halted for no reason just above them. To everyone's shock, they watched as a black claw formed between Shuo Fan and the ice dragon, blocking the ice claws from coming any closer. What is this? Why isn't he sealed in contact with the ice dragon? One elder shouted in disbelief. The ice dragon seals everything, arts, souls and even yuan qi, in its body. How is it that someone is still unaffected when touching it? Ouyang Lingtian watched the spectacle with equal shock, forgetting to even mind his flying. Heaven-sealing sword art can no longer seal? That's not possible. Shui Ruohua was waiting for her life to end at the ice dragon's claw but found it to be late. She cracked an eyelid open and saw the black claw keeping it back with a dumb look. Wasn't this dragon unstoppable? Exalted He Ran couldn't stop it earlier, so why can this man? Sir, Shui Ruohua turned to Shuo Fan in shock. Shuo Fan only had eyes for Chu Qingcheng, who still leaned on his shoulder with a smile. Then he glanced at the halted ice claws with a hard expression. You ruined the mood, bastard. Thunder Flame Wraithclaw. His left eye acted up and the black thunder flame exploded. It spread over the black claw and enlarged it many times into a huge thunderflame claw. The crackling fire filled the air with death. It was a power and aura that struck fear to the core of the disciples and the mighty experts above, including Exalted He Ran and Ouyang Lingtian. As for the ice dragon, it actually showed fear under the black thunderflame's power. Its huge icy bulk quaked from it. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.